The Indus Valley Civilization. Have you ever looked at a busy city street and thought, what if all of this just disappeared? All the buildings, the people, the sounds, the life, gone. Not from war, not from disease, just vanished. Like it was never there. It's a strange thought, but it has happened before, and not just once. One of the most mysterious examples happened thousands of years ago, along two quiet rivers that still flow through modern-day Pakistan and northwest India. It's called the Indus Valley Civilization, and its silence speaks louder than any ruins ever found. Before we dive into this mystery, I want to know, have you ever visited a historical place that felt too quiet, too forgotten? Maybe an old well in your village or some ruins you saw on a school trip. Let me know where you're listening from. And if you enjoy stories like this, calm, thoughtful, and full of quiet wonder, don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. Now, let's begin. Imagine a city older than Rome, older than Greece, a place where people lived in organized neighborhoods, bathed in private bathrooms, and walked down straight, carefully planned streets. These people built wells that still have water today. They used bricks all made in the same shape and size. No kings, no giant temples, just order, peace, daily life. This was the Indus Valley Civilization, also known as the Harappan Civilization, after one of its first discovered cities, Harappa. It grew quietly along the Indus and Ghaggar-Hakra rivers, reaching its peak around 2600 BCE. That's over 4,500 years ago. While much of the world was still figuring out farming, these people were designing complex drainage systems beneath their homes. But here's the strange part. We don't know what they called themselves. We don't know their leaders. We don't know their language. They left behind no grand monuments, no golden tombs, just perfectly shaped bricks, faded seals with unknown writing, and cities too advanced for their time. And then, around 1900 BCE, they were gone. No massive war, no invading army, no giant plague. They didn't vanish in fire or flood, not all at once. At least, it was more like a long silence that started in whispers. Cities stopped growing. People began to leave. Slowly, over centuries, life moved away. The great city of Mohenjo-daro, which once had thousands of people, became a ghost town. And to this day, no one really knows why. Some say the rivers changed their course. The lifeline of these people dried up or flooded in strange ways. Imagine waking up one morning to find your farmland cracked and dry, the water that fed your animals and crops gone. Some say climate change, yes, even back then, shifted monsoon patterns. Others believe an earthquake broke the balance of the land. Still, it doesn't fully explain it. These people were skilled builders, smart planners. If their homes were no longer safe, wouldn't they have rebuilt elsewhere? But they didn't. Or at least, we haven't found where they went. It's as if the whole idea of the Indus Valley disappeared. Not just the people. The culture, the system, the writing. It all faded into history without anyone carrying the torch. And speaking of their writing, and that's another mystery, small seals made of stone or clay show symbols, animals, lines, repeating patterns. Some believe it's a written language, but we can't read it. Not yet. No Rosetta Stone has helped us. The meaning is still locked away, like a whisper behind a locked door, a forgotten voice from a forgotten world. When we look at the Indus Valley Civilization, we see something that doesn't quite fit. It doesn't match the stories we usually hear about ancient empires. There were no massive palaces or armies. No one ruler stood above the rest. Instead, there seems to be a calm equality, a society built more on balance than power. Isn't that strange? It makes you wonder, did they know something we've forgotten? Think about your own life. Think about how often we chase bigger things. Bigger houses, louder voices, stronger leaders. But these people? They built quiet cities that worked. Cities that still impress engineers today, and yet they left no trace of who they were. No poems, no stories, just straight roads and smooth stones. It makes you pause. What if the mark of a great civilization isn't how loudly it speaks, but how quietly it endures? What if true intelligence is not shown in gold and war, but in water pipes and peaceful streets? That's what makes the Indus Valley so haunting, not just because it disappeared, but because it didn't demand to be remembered. It simply existed, calm, thoughtful, advanced. And when it faded, it did so with the same quiet grace. As we fall asleep tonight, think about that. A whole world that rose, thrived, and disappeared, without a trace. Not in fire or rage, but in silence. Like a dream you half remember in the morning, soft around the edges, but powerful in its feeling. A civilization that didn't shout, but whispered, even in its end. And perhaps even now, that whisper still echoes beneath the sands, beneath the riverbeds, beneath our feet, waiting for us to listen. The Minoans of Crete. Have you ever walked into a room that once felt full of life, but now sits in complete silence? Maybe a childhood classroom, an old friend's house, a quiet hallway in a hospital at night. The kind of silence that doesn't just mean nobody's here, but seems to whisper that something happened, something important. That's the kind of silence the Minoan palaces now hold, grand, beautiful places that once echoed with laughter, music, and footsteps, now completely still. Before we begin this quiet journey into a vanished world, I want to know, have you ever visited a place where history felt alive? Somewhere that made you stop and just breathe? Just feel? Share your location in the comments and let me know where you're listening from tonight. And if you enjoy calming stories that leave you thinking, please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps more people discover this peaceful space we're building together. The Minoans lived on the island of Crete far before ancient Greece rose to power, around 3000 BCE. While other parts of the world were still just starting to figure out farming and trade, the Minoans were building palaces with staircases, light wells, and colorful frescoes. They painted dolphins on their walls. They danced in bright clothes. They built roads, sailed ships, and lived with a kind of joy and elegance that almost feels too good to be true. They had no massive army, no brutal kings. At least, that's what the ruins suggest. What we've found instead are symbols of balance. Bulls, circles, flowers, double axes, repeating again and again in their artwork. A life of rhythm, nature, and movement. Their biggest palace was at Knossos. It wasn't like a castle, it was more like a living city, with rooms stacked like a puzzle. Corridors, courtyards, storage spaces full of clay jars. Some people say this palace might have inspired the myth of the labyrinth. You might remember that story, the one with the Minotaur hidden in a maze. That idea of being lost in a beautiful place that feels endless. Maybe it came from real memories of this strange, twisting palace. Now here's where the mystery begins. Around 1600 BCE, something massive happened. Far north of Crete, on the island of Thera, now known as Santorini, a volcano exploded. Not just a small eruption, this was one of the largest in human history. Imagine the sky turning dark, the sea pulling back, then rising up in waves taller than buildings. Clouds of ash falling like snow for days. Some say the sound of it was heard for hundreds of miles. The explosion tore apart the island. It caused earthquakes across the region, and very likely it sent a giant wave, a tsunami, straight toward Crete. Now imagine that. One moment you're going about your day. The air smells like olives and flowers. Children are laughing in the street, and the next, the earth shakes. The sea disappears. Then it comes rushing back, faster than any human could run. Whole villages swept away. Fields destroyed, people missing. And even those who survived would find their world changed forever after this disaster. The Minoan palaces were never quite the same. Some were rebuilt, but the art became darker, simpler. The joy and color faded from the walls. Trade slowed. People moved. And finally, around 1100 BCE, silence. Historians argue about what really caused the Minoans to disappear. Some think it was the volcano. Some blame invaders from the mainland. Others say it was a slow unraveling, a perfect storm of natural disasters, economic decline, and fear. But nobody knows for sure. All we know is that one of the most advanced cultures in early Europe, a culture full of grace and beauty, simply faded. What makes it so haunting is how complete the silence became. The Minoans had a written language. Two, actually. One of them we still can't read. Like the Indus Valley, their words are trapped in symbols we haven't cracked. It's as if they tried to tell us their story, but the page is still closed. And here's the paradox. These people were ahead of their time. They mastered trade, art, even plumbing. They designed spaces to catch the morning light. They lived in peace, at least more than most. And yet they vanished. No final message, no warning. Just quiet ruins, slowly taken back by the earth. Now, let's think about that for a moment. Isn't it strange how even the most brilliant parts of human history can be forgotten? It makes you think about your own life, about how hard we try to leave something behind, a photo, a message, a memory. But what if the world changes so slowly, or so suddenly, that nothing remains? What if one day someone finds your old house and wonders who you were? The story of the Minoans touches something deep in us, a fear of being forgotten, but also maybe a comfort in knowing that beauty existed, even if it didn't last, that people danced and painted and sailed under the same sun we see today, that their joy, though gone, still echoes. There's also something to learn here. The Minoans didn't build for power, they built for life. Their homes weren't giant fortresses, they were open, airy, full of light. Their art didn't celebrate war. It showed nature, animals, people. Maybe that's why their silence feels so heavy. Because in them, we see a version of humanity we don't always choose, a version that valued color over control. As we drift off tonight, think of a palace on a hill. The sun is setting. The sea is calm. A child is laughing, running down a painted hallway. Somewhere, music plays softly. A breeze moves through open windows. And then, slowly, it all fades. Not in fear, not in anger, but in quiet. Like the ending of a beautiful dream you almost remember. A civilization not lost in violence, but carried away by time, wind, and waves. Maybe the Minoans are still with us, in the way we decorate our homes, in the way we stand at the edge of the sea, searching for something we can't quite name, in the way we chase meaning, not through power, but through beauty, joy, and rhythm. And maybe that's what matters most. Not how long something lasts, but how deeply it touches those who find it. If this story gave you a moment of calm tonight, consider sharing it with someone who might need it too. Let's build this space together. A place where forgotten voices are gently heard and ancient silences are softly remembered. The Olmecs of Mesoamerica. Have you ever stumbled upon something that felt out of place? Like it belonged to a different world? Maybe it was an old photo in a drawer you didn't expect to open, or a piece of music that suddenly made you feel something ancient. That's the feeling many people have when they first see an Olmec stonehead, a face carved in rock, taller than a man, resting quietly in the jungle, watching, waiting, saying nothing, yet feeling like it knows everything. That is the mystery of the Olmecs. Before we sink into this quiet mystery together, I'd love to know, have you ever found something strange or old in your town or home? Maybe a strange statue, or a pattern on the wall, or just a story someone told you that didn't quite make sense. Share it in the comments and let's build a peaceful little archive of wonder together. And if stories like this help you fall asleep or slow your thoughts, please like this video, subscribe, and leave a gentle note. You're part of something calm here. The Olmecs lived a very long time ago, even before the Maya. even before the Aztecs, around 1600 BCE. Deep in what is now southern Mexico, they built something that still feels impossible. They didn't just survive, they thrived. They carved stone like it was clay. They built great centers of trade. They watched the stars, and then, like a breath, they were gone. But they didn't leave quietly. What they left behind is haunting, not in a scary way, in a how did they do this kind of way. The most famous reminders are the colossal heads. 17 of them have been found. Some are 9 feet tall, made of stone so heavy even modern machines would struggle to move them. And yet somehow the Olmecs carved these faces, deep eyes, wide noses, heavy lips, and transported them across rivers, forests, and hills. And here's the strangest part. No one knows who the faces are supposed to be. Were they kings, athletes, ancestors, gods? No one left a name, no plaque, just these quiet, thoughtful faces resting in the green silence of time. Now imagine you're walking through a jungle trail. The air is thick and warm. Birds call softly from high branches. The ground is soft under your feet. You turn a corner, and there it is, a stone face looking right at you. It's not angry, not happy, just watching, not threatening, but not entirely welcoming either, like it's wondering if you'll understand. That's what the Olmecs left for us. Clues, but not answers. We call them the mother culture of the Americas. That's because so many of the things that came later, Mayan calendars, Aztec temples, farming styles, ball games, can be traced back to the Olmecs. But strangely, we know very little about them. They had writing, we think, some symbols carved into stone or pressed into clay. But the language hasn't been fully cracked. It's like they left us a note in a bottle, but we lost the code to read it. What we do know is that their cities weren't small. Places like San Lorenzo and La Venta were complex, organized, and full of activity. They had temples, plazas, and water systems. They grew corn, beans, squash. They fished and hunted. They worked with jade, obsidian, rubber. They didn't just survive the jungle. They mastered it. And then, silence. By around 400 BCE, the Olmec cities had been abandoned. The jungle moved in. Roots wrapped around stone. Birds nested in empty rooms. And little by little, the world forgot. Why did they disappear? Again, no one knows for sure. Maybe the rivers shifted. Maybe the ground dried up. Maybe new groups moved in, and the Olmecs blended in or were pushed out. Maybe it was slow or sudden. Maybe it wasn't a fall, but a quiet exit, a decision to let go. This kind of mystery touches something deep in us, because in our everyday lives, we also try to leave things behind. We save photos on our phones. We write down our thoughts. We build houses, routines, relationships. We want to be remembered. But what if one day it all fades? What if someone finds your favorite shirt, your favorite book, or a note you once wrote, but doesn't know who you were? The Olmecs remind us that you can build something incredible and still be forgotten, that you can create beauty and it can still vanish. And yet, there's comfort in that too, because even if we don't know their names, we feel something when we see their art. A quiet recognition, a connection, proof that even if you disappear, your presence might still echo. Let's think about this from another angle. Imagine a friend moves away. You stop hearing from them. Years pass. But one day, you find a gift they gave you, or a message they once sent. It makes you smile, maybe cry. That's what these stoneheads are. Not monuments of power, but messages in stone, gifts we weren't meant to open yet. This touches on something bigger. In our digital world, we're surrounded by noise, fast news, short videos, constant updates. But the Olmecs ask us to slow down, to notice, to wonder. They remind us that not everything needs to be explained right away. That silence can be a story too. Maybe that's why they feel so powerful, because they didn't leave us rules or warnings. They left us art. They left us mystery. They left us questions we'll never fully answer. And in doing so, they gave us something that lasts longer than facts: feeling. As you rest tonight, picture one of those stone heads resting in the jungle. The sun is low. The air is still. Leaves rustle gently in the wind. The face stares ahead, eyes half closed, lips quiet. It doesn't need to speak. It doesn't need to move. It simply is, waiting for someone like you to notice, to pause, to feel. There is something calming about that kind of presence, something eternal, like a dream you half remember from childhood, or a song you haven't heard in years, but somehow still know. The Olmecs left us something we didn't know we needed. Not facts, not timelines, but a moment of stillness in a loud world. And maybe that's their true legacy. Not being first, not being powerful, but being present, in stone, in silence, in wonder. If this story brought you peace tonight, consider leaving a comment or sharing it with someone else who needs a soft moment. Every word you share helps keep this quiet space alive. Together we're building something calm, something that, like the Olmecs, will echo softly across time. The Nabateans of Petra. Imagine waking up in a place where the walls around you glow with soft shades of red and pink, as if the stone itself is blushing under the sun. You step outside and walk through a narrow, winding canyon, your footsteps echoing between tall cliffs. Then suddenly, the path opens, and before you stands a massive structure, carved right into the rock face. Not built, carved. Columns, windows, doorways, all shaped from the mountain itself. You didn't expect this. You didn't expect to feel so small or so still. But here you are, standing in Petra, a city once alive with voices, trade, and dreams. Now, a city of silence and stone. Before we explore this forgotten world together, I want to ask something simple. Have you ever visited a place, maybe an old house, a dusty alley, a quiet ruin, and felt like someone had just left? Like the air still held a memory, even if no one was there. Share your experience in the comments. I'd love to read it. And if stories like this help you breathe slower, think deeper, or sleep better, feel free to like the video, subscribe, and become part of this calm space we're building together. The Nabateans were a group of people who made the desert their home. Not just any desert, but the dry, rocky lands between Arabia and the Mediterranean. Most people wouldn't try to live there. Too little rain, too much heat. But the Nabateans didn't just survive, they thrived. Around 400 BCE, they began, carving a city into the sandstone cliffs of modern-day Jordan. Petra, the name means rock, and it makes sense, because this city wasn't placed on the land, it was part of it. It grew out of the stone, homes, temples, tombs, all carved by hand, every curve and column shaped with care. No bricks, no wood, just stone and time. What's even more amazing is how they lived. Petra wasn't just beautiful, it was smart. The Nabateans were masters of water. In a place where rain was rare, they built channels and tanks to collect every drop. They created fountains, gardens, cool spaces to rest. While others feared the desert, they turned it into art. But who were they? That's the mystery. We know they traded goods like spices, incense, gold, and silk. Their caravans moved across the desert, connecting worlds. India to Rome, Arabia to Greece. They didn't conquer. They connected. They didn't shout. They whispered, through trade, through art, through stone. When people ask what makes Petra so special, they often mention the treasury. It's the famous structure you've probably seen in pictures, a huge facade with columns and statues carved into the rock. But that's just one part. Petra is full of surprises, winding staircases, hidden chambers, secret tombs. Some researchers believe there are still parts of Petra waiting to be found, buried in sand, hidden by time. And then, just as their city reached its height, the Nabateans faded away, not in war, not in fire, but in silence. How does a whole civilization disappear without a sound? The answer might be both simple and sad. The world changed, trade routes moved, people began sailing instead of crossing the desert. The caravans grew fewer, the visitors stopped coming, the money dried up, and Petra, once full of life, became quiet. Some say the Nabateans slowly blended into other cultures. Others think they just left, one by one, chasing new paths. Either way, they didn't leave behind books or grand stories, just the stone, just Petra. Like a love letter with no name at the bottom. There's something deeply human about that. Have you ever worked really hard on something, a drawing, a journal, a small garden, only to wonder if anyone would ever see it? We all want to be remembered. We want to leave something behind. But sometimes, what we leave isn't words. It's feeling. It's shape. It's silence. The Nabateans remind us that beauty doesn't always need an explanation, that mystery can be a kind of memory, and that just because a voice isn't loud doesn't mean it's not important. Think about how this connects to our own lives. Sometimes we move through the world quietly. We do things others don't notice. We show kindness without asking for praise. We leave notes, songs, smiles. Maybe no one will remember the details, but the feeling, that stays. Petra teaches us that presence can be more powerful than attention, that what's carved with care, even in silence, can last. Even now, when the sun sets over Petra and the cliffs turn golden and soft, you can almost hear the echo of footsteps, traders arriving after a long journey, children laughing near the fountains, artists shaping stone with gentle hands, and then the quiet comes, a deep, warm quiet. Like the desert itself is breathing, it's not just about the past, it's about today. In a world that moves fast, where we scroll and swipe and forget things quickly, Petra stands still, a reminder to pause, to look, to wonder, to listen. Even artificial intelligence, something very modern, can learn from the Nabateans, because they show us that meaning isn't always in the message. Sometimes it's in the pause between messages, the space between what we know and what we feel. That's where the mystery lives. And mystery, like Petra, is patient. So, if you're feeling tired tonight, or unsure, or like you're fading into the background, remember Petra. Remember the people who built something breathtaking in a place no one thought could bloom. Remember that even if the world changes around you, what you create with care can still whisper across centuries. You don't need to shout to be remembered. You don't need to explain everything, you just need to be present. To carve your own shape in the stone of your life. Quietly, gently, with love. Thank you for spending this time here. If this story helped you feel calm or thoughtful, consider leaving a comment or subscribing. Let's keep sharing these soft, powerful echoes together. Because just like Petra, our calm space is carved out, not by noise, but by care. The Khmer Empire, at Angkor. Imagine walking through a forest, where thick trees stretch high above, their roots curling like sleeping serpents across stone paths. You step carefully, brushing aside vines that hang low, and suddenly, something shifts. Through the green curtain of leaves a tower appears, then another, then walls, steps, statues. You weren't walking through just a forest. You were walking through a forgotten city. The jungle hadn't hidden it. It had hugged it, covered it gently like a blanket. And what it covered was a kingdom. Before we begin tonight's quiet journey, I want to ask you something personal. Have you ever found something surprising during an ordinary day? Like a small treasure in a drawer you hadn't opened in years? Or a memory triggered by a smell or a sound that pulled you back into another time? Share it in the comments, I'd love to read it. And if these peaceful, thoughtful stories help you rest, feel free to like this video and subscribe so we can keep discovering these wonders together. The Khmer Empire was one of the most powerful civilizations in Southeast Asia. Their heart was Angkor, a city built with ambition and deep belief, rising from the lowlands of Cambodia. At its peak, Angkor was home to more people than any city on Earth at the time. Over 1 million souls lived there. But unlike the towering cities of steel we know today, Angkor wasn't loud. It didn't push into the sky. It blended with water, with land, with spirit. The Khmer didn't just build cities. They shaped the land itself. They created vast systems of canals, moats, and reservoirs. These were not just for beauty or survival. They were symbols, reflections of their beliefs. They saw the world as a mirror between heaven and earth. Water was more than just liquid. It was life, memory, connection. At the center of it all stood Angkor Wat, a temple so large, so detailed, it could almost be a mountain pretending to be a building. Carved from stone, every surface tells a story. Warriors in battle, gods in the sky, dancers frozen mid-motion. People say the walls of Angkor Wat are like pages from a book. But it's a book without words, one you feel instead of read. And yet, this mighty city, full of light and sound and sacred meaning, slowly faded. Not in a single day, not with a single war, but over time. Like a song whose last note fades into silence. The jungle moved in. Quietly. Patiently. It didn't destroy the city. It wrapped it in green, letting it sleep. Why did the Khmer Empire disappear? That question has puzzled many. Some think it was war. Others say changes in the climate made the water systems fail. Maybe a long drought. Maybe a flood. Or maybe the people just moved, left the temples behind like old dreams. But maybe the answer is deeper than facts. Maybe this story isn't about how something ended. Maybe it's about what lasts. Because even after centuries of silence, Angkor still stands. Trees grow through towers. Roots stretch through windows. And in that strange mix of stone and vine, something magical happens. You see how human hands once shaped the world, and how nature, in time, gently shapes it back. Think about this in your own life. We all build things. Plans, friendships, dreams. Sometimes they rise tall. Sometimes they fall. But even what fades can still matter. A broken toy that reminds you of childhood. A photo, half torn, that still holds a smile. The past doesn't have to shout. It can whisper. The Khmer remind us that strength doesn't always mean control. Sometimes, true strength is in balance, between effort and letting go, between making something big and allowing it to soften. It's a strange feeling, walking through Angkor. The silence is deep, but not empty. You feel watched, not in a scary way, but like the walls remember you, even if they've never seen you before. Birds call softly, leaves fall, light shifts through cracks, and you begin to wonder, who were the people who lived here? What did they laugh at? What did they fear? What did they dream? Maybe they were like us, worrying about the weather, celebrating small victories, telling stories under the stars. Maybe they thought their world would last forever, just like we sometimes. Dude, that's the paradox, isn't it? We work so hard to build things, cities, systems, lives. And yet everything changes. What we think is strong may not last, and what we forget might outlive us. Even in today's world of technology and machines, we still face the same mystery. What does it mean to last? Is it in the things we make? The data we save? Or is it in the feelings we share? The quiet acts of care that ripple out, even when no one sees. Artificial intelligence, for all its power, might still struggle to understand something as soft as memory, as personal as faith, as quiet as a temple hidden in trees. That's what Angkor teaches us. That meaning isn't always in what we explain. It's often in what we feel, without words. So tonight, as you rest your mind, think of a city where stone meets root, where builders once believed in balance, where time moved slowly, like water through a canal. Think of the Khmer, not as vanished rulers, but as quiet teachers, reminding us that beauty can grow even in silence, that what is lost is not always gone, that we don't need to be remembered by the world to have mattered. You don't need to build a temple to leave something behind. Maybe just a kind word, a gentle touch, a moment of stillness. Because just like the vines of Angkor, the smallest acts can grow over time. And maybe one day someone will stumble upon what you've left, not a statue, not a book, but a feeling. A trace of care, a quiet echo, a soft reminder that you were here. Thank you for joining me in this journey through time and trees. If this helped bring you peace or sparked your curiosity, consider liking, subscribing, or sharing a comment. Let's keep exploring the quiet mysteries of our world together, one gentle story at a time. The Hittite Empire. What if you woke up one day and found that everything about your world, your house, your job, even your name had quietly disappeared? Not violently, not suddenly, but slowly, like mist lifting from a valley in the morning. And when someone far in the future came looking for you, all they found were whispers, scraps, half-told stories carved in stone. Would they ever really know who you were? Before we begin our quiet journey through time, I'd love to ask you something. Have you ever visited a place that felt strangely familiar, even though you'd never been there before? Maybe it was a road that reminded you of home, or an old building that seemed to remember you. If so, share your story in the comments. Let's build a community of curious minds. And if these peaceful explorations bring you comfort, don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you can join me again. The Hittite Empire was once one of the great powers of the ancient world. But unlike the towering pyramids of Egypt or the shining cities of Greece, the Hittites left behind only quiet remains, weathered stone gates, faded carvings, clay tablets tucked into caves and buried under dust. They ruled large parts of what we now call Turkey and Syria, but when their empire fell, it fell so completely that people forgot they ever existed. For hundreds of years, no one even knew the Hittites had been real. They were just names in old stories, shadowy figures who might have been myths. It wasn't until explorers in the 1800s uncovered strange writings and massive stone ruins that the world slowly began to remember. And even now, we only know pieces. They had no towering statues, no golden crowns that have survived, just simple clay tablets, soft, pale, and easy to break. And yet, inside these tablets were words, thousands of them. Treaties, laws, prayers, letters between kings. They didn't shout about their greatness, they just quietly recorded their lives. It makes you wonder, what really lasts? In our own world, we often focus on what's loud. Fast cars, big headlines, social media posts that go viral. But maybe it's the quiet things that leave the deepest marks. A gentle hand on your shoulder, a kind message written when no one else was looking, a diary page, a shared meal. The Hittites knew war, they knew politics and power. But they also seemed to value balance. They signed peace treaties. In fact, one of the oldest surviving peace agreements in the world was written by them. That shows us something. Even in a time of swords and walls, they believed in words, in understanding, in sitting down across from someone you once fought and saying, "Let's find a way." Isn't that what we still try to do? Think about relationships in your life. Arguments with friends, moments of silence with people you care about, the decision to forgive or to listen. It's not easy. It takes more strength to be kind when you're hurt than it does to be cruel. But maybe that's where real power lives. The Hittites remind us of this. They built cities with great stone gates, but they also built bridges between tribes, between beliefs, between languages. They borrowed gods from other cultures, not to erase them, but to honor them. They believed the divine could wear many faces. That faith didn't have to fight. It could share. That's something to think about in today's world, where differences often divide us. The Hittites quietly offer a different idea. What if difference is just another kind of connection we haven't learned to see yet? Now imagine, the city of Hattusa, their capital. Not loud, not golden, but calm. Roads carved through stone, homes made with care, gates shaped like lions and kings, but above all, silence, not emptiness, just a soft kind of presence. The feeling that someone lived here, dreamed here, loved here, and then, over time, it faded. We're not sure exactly why. Maybe invasions, maybe drought, maybe the systems they relied on became too heavy to hold. But their fall wasn't sudden. It was slow. Like a sunset, and by the time they were gone, even their memory had gone with them. Until someone, hundreds of years later, found their words in the dirt. There's something beautiful about that. Something gentle. The idea that even when we're forgotten, something of us might still remain. A word, a touch, a story. It reminds me of how we live today. We send messages that vanish in seconds. We build online profiles that might one day disappear. But behind all the noise, what really stays? Maybe it's how we made someone feel. A friend who remembers your laugh. A stranger who remembers your kindness. A family member who still sees your eyes in their dreams. The Hittites didn't build their empire on flash. They built it on steadiness, on ideas that quietly reached beyond their borders. They didn't leave behind a towering statue, but they left behind a treaty, a prayer, a promise. And that tells us something about what they valued. Sometimes we think legacy means being famous, but maybe it just means being real, being present, living in a way that, even if forgotten, left something soft behind, something like a footprint in sand that someone someday will find. Even modern science and artificial intelligence are still trying to understand the full story of the Hittites. Their language was complex, their records incomplete, and yet, every little clue we find brings their world a little closer. It shows us how even the smallest pieces can matter. Just like in your own life, a missed call, a message saved, a note on the fridge. These tiny things can carry enormous meaning. And that's the paradox here. The Hittites were powerful, yet vanished, forgotten, yet now remembered, faded, yet meaningful, just like a quiet moment in your day. It may seem small, but it could be the very thing that helps you breathe. Tonight, as you fall asleep, think of a city made of stone and silence. Think of people who lived with purpose, even if their names were lost. Think of words pressed into clay by candlelight, of kings writing peace instead of war, of strangers once divided choosing to meet in the middle. And think of yourself, of the quiet things you've done, the words you've spoken when no one else was watching, the care you've given, the feelings you've carried. Because even if the world forgets, those things matter. They shape the unseen. They soften the edges. They last. Thank you for spending this time with me tonight. If this journey into forgotten worlds brings you peace, I'd be honored if you'd like this video, leave a comment with where you're watching from, or subscribe so we can explore more stories together. There's still so much to discover, one calm breath at a time. The Elamites of ancient Iran, imagine writing your entire life story, your dreams, your family, your struggles, into soft clay with careful hands. You press each symbol with quiet focus, knowing it will dry into something solid, something permanent. But then imagine, centuries later, no one remembers what those symbols mean. No one remembers your name. The city you lived in is buried. The wind has taken your voice. Would you still write? Before we begin our journey tonight, I'd love to hear something from you. Have you ever kept a journal? Or maybe written a message that you never sent? Something you wanted to remember even if no one else saw it? If so, share it in the comments, or just let me know where you're listening from. It's comforting to know we're exploring these forgotten paths together. And if this peaceful trip through time brings you any kind of calm, I'd be honored. If you liked the video or subscribed, there are many more quiet mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Now, let's begin with the Elamites, an ancient civilization that lived in the land we now call Iran. They built cities out in the warm deserts and recorded their kings in a writing called cuneiform, small wedge-shaped symbols pressed into clay tablets. At one time they were powerful. They traded. They built temples. They ruled over fertile valleys. But then something changed. Slowly, new empires grew around them. Stronger voices took over, and the Elamites, once proud and known, simply melted away. They didn't vanish in fire or chaos. There was no final battle written in poems. They just faded, like footprints in sand after the wind moves through. Their language was forgotten. Their cities were buried, and for a long time, even their name was barely remembered. But those clay tablets remained, silent, unread, waiting. There's something haunting and beautiful about that. It's like when you clean out an old drawer and find a letter from someone you loved. The handwriting is faded, maybe even hard to read, but the feeling is still there. The meaning isn't in the ink, it's in the act of writing, of caring enough to leave a message behind. The Elamites wrote for kings, for gods, and for each other. They carved out moments of joy, law, belief, and doubt. And they did it knowing those words might outlive them. And they were right. This quiet civilization teaches us something that feels very personal, that we don't always get to choose how we're remembered. We don't get to decide if our story becomes famous, but we do get to live it with meaning. We get to show up, to create, to love, even if time moves on without us. Think of your own life. You might not build a palace or carve your name into stone, but maybe you've helped someone through a hard time. Maybe you've listened when it mattered most. Maybe you've spoken words that someone else still carries with them. These things don't fade. Not really. The Elamites lived during a time when the world was full of movement. Empires were rising, languages shifting, borders changing. But instead of disappearing completely, they left behind layers, fragments. And when modern archaeologists began digging in the deserts of Iran, they found those layers. Strange buildings beneath the sand, walls that held echoes, and tablets that no one could read. It took years, decades even, to understand the writing. But once people began to piece it together, the Elamites began to speak again, slowly, carefully, word by word. Their stories weren't loud, but they were steady. This is where the mystery deepens. We still don't know everything about them. Their language was unique, unlike any other known tongue. Their culture mixed with others, blended, changed. It's hard to tell where one empire ended and another began, and that's part of the paradox. The Elamites were both clear and hidden, present and forgotten, known but only in pieces. It's like trying to remember a dream. You can feel it, maybe see flashes, but the whole picture slips away when you try to grab it. And yet it lingers, like a soft light behind a curtain. In a way, this reminds us of memory itself. Think of someone you haven't seen in years, maybe a friend from childhood. You can picture their face, but not their voice. You remember how they made you feel, but not the exact words they said. That's how the Elamites remain with us, not through sharp details, but through traces, impressions, gentle marks. In today's world, where so much is loud and fast, the Elamites offer something different. A slower rhythm, a deeper breath. They didn't leave behind a grand legend, but they did leave behind evidence of a life fully lived, cities designed with care, ceremonies held with devotion, systems of writing passed from one generation to the next, and maybe that's the most lasting kind of impact, the quiet kind. Just like a soft word spoken during a storm, or the stillness you feel before falling asleep. It doesn't need to shout to be heard. Their story also touches on something bigger, something that connects to belief, language, and even the way we think. How do we measure what matters? Is it fame, riches, or is it connection, thoughtfulness? The quiet effort to leave something behind that someone, someday, might find useful or beautiful. When we think about artificial intelligence or the way machines learn from our words, we're doing something similar. We're trying to preserve meaning, to create systems that remember. But deep down, what we're really doing is hoping that our thoughts, our way of seeing the world, won't be lost. That's what the Elamites did too. With every line pressed into clay, they were saying, "This is what we see. This is what we know. Remember us." Even if their names are now hard to pronounce, even if their stories are broken into fragments, we still hear them, through the silence, through the centuries, and maybe in your own life you've felt the same desire, to leave something behind, to not be forgotten. It could be as simple as a story told to your child, a photo saved, a recipe written down. These are our own tablets, our own soft clay, and even if the world forgets the details, the heart of it remains. The Elamites show us that quiet doesn't mean empty, that forgotten doesn't mean unimportant, and that the things we do in love, in truth, in curiosity, those are the things that last the longest. So tonight, as you let your eyes close and your thoughts slow down, picture a warm desert, picture a city buried under sand. Imagine the soft scrape of a stylus across wet clay, a hand writing something for the future, unsure if anyone will ever read it. And then imagine someone does. Thank you for joining me on this peaceful journey. If the story of the Elamites brought you comfort or curiosity, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know where you're listening from or what thoughts this awakened in you. And if you'd like to keep exploring stories like this, please like and subscribe. There's still so much left to uncover, hidden softly beneath the sands of time. The Etruscans of Italy. Imagine spending your entire life building something beautiful, something full of music, language, art, and belief, only to watch it slowly fade into something else. Not destroyed, not forgotten all at once, but gently, reshaped by time until only a few pieces remain. Now imagine that those pieces, your words, your stories, are still there, waiting for someone to find them, even if no one can quite understand them anymore. Before we go deeper, I'd love to know, have you ever had something special that meant a lot to you, but slowly disappeared from your life? A language you used to speak with a grandparent, a song you used to hear in your childhood, maybe a tradition your family used to follow that no longer feels the same. Feel free to share it in the comments, or just let me know where you're listening from. It's always meaningful to hear your stories, especially as we explore lost voices together. And if you're enjoying these soft journeys through time, don't forget to like and subscribe. We have many more quiet stories to uncover. Tonight, let's slow down and remember the Etruscans, a people who once lived in what is now Italy, long before Rome became the Rome we think of today. They were not a small tribe hiding in the shadows. They were artists, builders, and thinkers. Their cities were strong, their religion was deep, their rituals were meaningful, and in many ways the Etruscans shaped the world the Romans would later claim as their own. But here's the strange thing. As Rome grew in power, the Etruscan voice became quieter. Their language, once carved into stone and painted in tombs, was slowly replaced. Their customs were absorbed, changed, renamed. And now, even though we know they were important, we don't fully understand them. We have their words, but we can't read most of them. We see their art, but we don't always know what it meant. It's like walking into a room filled with beautiful music, but the lyrics are just out of reach. You feel the emotion. You sense the meaning. But the words slip away before they can settle in your mind. That's the paradox of the Etruscans. They didn't vanish in a sudden storm. They didn't collapse into silence. Instead, they were slowly, gently covered by another voice. One that borrowed from them, but also buried them. Like a painting that was painted over. Like a dream you half remember when you wake up, and yet, they are still here. In the curved letters of the Latin alphabet, in the designs of Roman temples, in the quiet spaces of old tombs where scenes of feasting and dancing were painted to honor the dead, the Etruscans believed in a life beyond this one, a journey after death, and they left clues about it in the Images they painted, the things they buried, and the way they lived. You may wonder, how can a whole people be remembered, but not understood? That's the mystery. We have thousands of Etruscan inscriptions, but their language is still only partly known. We can read names, places, some common phrases, but the deeper meaning is hidden. It's like having a message from a friend you've lost touch with. You see their handwriting, you recognize the shape of their words, but you can't quite hear their voice anymore. In a way, this mirrors how we sometimes lose parts of ourselves over time. The way we once saw the world as children, the dreams we had before life became more complicated. They don't disappear completely, but they change. They live underneath the surface, influencing us in quiet ways. That's what the Etruscans did for Rome. They gave it a foundation, a spirit, a set of beliefs about fate, the stars, and the power of ritual. But as Rome became louder, more organized, and more focused on control, it left behind the softer voice of the Etruscans. This happens in life too. Sometimes the parts of us that are more gentle, more spiritual, get buried under the pressure to perform, to succeed, to be seen a certain way, but they're still there waiting. Sometimes all it takes is a quiet night like this to hear them again. The Etruscans believed in signs from nature: lightning, the flight of birds, the shape of clouds. They thought the world was always speaking to them. That meaning was hidden, in patterns, in moments that most people ignored. They trained special priests to watch and interpret these signs. Imagine believing that nothing was random, that every part of your day, every sound, every shadow, was part of a larger message. That takes a different kind of awareness, a deep kind of listening. In our modern world, it's easy to forget how to listen like that. But maybe you felt it before. A moment when everything just paused. When the world seemed to speak softly to you through a song or a sunset, or a thought that came at just the right time. That's the kind of attention the Etruscans lived with every day, and maybe that's why their memory still feels so strong, even though their language is quiet. They left behind a feeling, a presence, a whisper. When archaeologists began to uncover Etruscan tombs, they found painted walls filled with life, men and women reclining at banquets, dancers, musicians, scenes full of joy, and it made people wonder, were these people more free, more open? They gave women more status than other ancient cultures did. They shared meals in public. They buried their dead with care, surrounding them with beauty. It's hard to say for sure, because we only see what time has allowed us to see. But what we do know is this: the Etruscans believed life was meant to be honored, that the dead should be remembered, that the sky held meaning, that symbols mattered. In a time when so much was uncertain, they created rituals to hold things together, just like we do, when we light candles, when we keep photos of loved ones, when we whisper wishes into the dark. There is something comforting in that, in knowing that people thousands of years ago had the same hopes and fears that we do. They loved, they mourned, they wondered, and they tried to leave behind something that could speak for them when they were gone. Even if the language is no longer spoken, the feeling remains. Maybe that's the message hidden in the Etruscan story, that even when words fade, meaning can still remain. That influence doesn't always look like power or fame. Sometimes it's quieter, slower, but deeper. The Etruscans didn't shout their way into history. They whispered, they painted, they carved. They built a world that Rome would later walk through, picking up pieces without always remembering where they came from. And we do the same. We carry parts of the past with us, sometimes without realizing it. In the way we celebrate, the way we say goodbye, the way we hope. So as you rest tonight, think of the Etruscans. Think of a world filled with soft colors, strange music, and words no one can read. A world that still exists, even if we only see it in pieces. And maybe ask yourself, what are the pieces of your own story that you want to be remembered? Not just your name or your job, but the way you made others feel, the beauty you noticed, the kindness you offered. These are the things that don't fade. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this story brought you peace or stirred something inside you, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know where you're listening from, or share a memory that's quietly stayed with you. And if you'd like more gentle stories like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. The past is never fully gone. It waits in the quiet, in the earth, in the spaces between words. And sometimes, all we need to do is listen. The Lycians of Anatolia. Have you ever looked at the edge of a cliff and imagined a city hanging there, halfway between the sky and the sea? Homes carved into stone, where the wind carries stories instead of voices? Imagine walking along a coastline, where every hill holds a secret and every rock seems to watch in silence. Now, imagine that those cities once belonged to people who are now almost forgotten, not because they vanished overnight, but because their names slowly slipped into myth. Before we begin this journey, I'd love to know where you're listening from. Is there a place near you that holds stories from the past? Maybe a mountain, a ruin, or even an old house that makes you wonder who lived there before you. Share it in the comments if you'd like, and if you enjoy these peaceful dives into mystery, please like and subscribe. It means more than you know. Now, let's return to the edge of the cliff. Long ago, along the southern coast of what is now Turkey, there lived a people called the Lycians. They were seafarers, builders, dreamers, but unlike the giant cities of Rome or Athens, the Lycians shaped their world into the land itself. Their homes clung to cliffs, their tombs were carved into solid rock, high above the ground. It was as if they wanted to be close to both the earth and the sky at the same time. And maybe that's the first mystery. Why would anyone build their tombs so high, where it's difficult to reach? What were they trying to say? Were they speaking to the gods? Or maybe to those of us still alive, reminding us to look up and wonder? There's something hauntingly beautiful about the way the Lycians lived. They didn't leave behind endless books or long speeches. They didn't try to conquer the world, but they carved their lives into stone, into hills, into time. And even now their presence lingers, not loud but quiet, not commanding but unforgettable. It's a little like those parts of ourselves that we try to hold on to even when life changes. Old dreams, childhood hopes, pieces of who we were before things became more complicated. Sometimes we don't notice how important those parts are until we feel their absence, just like the Lycians, once real, now distant, but still part of the landscape. The Lycians lived in small kingdoms, scattered along the coast. They were not ruled by one great king, but instead by many leaders, each in their own city. This gave them a kind of freedom, but also made them fragile. Over time, they were pulled into larger empires, first the Persians, then the Greeks, then the Romans, and with each new power, a little more of their voice was lost, but their stone tombs remained. You can still find them today. Some look like small houses carved carefully into cliff faces. Others are shaped like boats turned upside down. They believed that the soul could journey after death, and maybe they thought of the boat as a symbol of that passage, from one world to the next, from sea to sky, from memory to myth. It's easy to see the connection between their world and ours. Think about the things we build to last. Photos saved on phones, messages written to loved ones, even social media posts we hope someone will read and remember. In our own way, we are always trying to leave a mark, to be seen, to matter, just like the Lycians did. But the paradox is this: no matter how carefully we build, time still moves forward. People forget, empires shift, stories fade, and yet some things remain. A carved rock, a strange name, a feeling. The Lycians spoke a language that is now mostly forgotten. We can guess at parts of it. We've found inscriptions. We know a few meanings, but not enough to understand their full thoughts, their songs, their poems, their jokes. Those things are gone. And yet their silence speaks loudly. It tells us that history is not only written by the loudest voices. Sometimes it's written in the quietest corners, on the side of a mountain, in the shape of a tomb, in the silence of forgotten names. This is where the story of the Lycians touches something deeper, because it reminds us of something many of us feel but don't often say: the fear of being forgotten, of being just one voice in a world that moves fast, a world that sometimes seems to forget things too easily. Our faces change, our routines change, our surroundings shift, and we wonder, will anyone remember us? Not just what we did, but who we were. The Lycians didn't have huge armies or towering statues, but they built something that could not be ignored: presence, a sense that someone was there, that someone cared enough to carve a doorway into stone, to place a tomb where the wind could touch it and the sea could see it. Even their name carries mystery. Lycia. It sounds soft and ancient. It feels like a whisper from the past. No one is sure what they called themselves. The name we use today was likely given to them by others. But that's often how history works. We are remembered not always as we truly were, but as others choose to describe us. In that way, the Lycians are like a memory passed down through many voices, each one adding something, each one losing something, until the memory becomes a story, and the story becomes a legend. Still, something about the Lycians feels real, close, familiar. They lived with the sea as their companion. The waves were part of their daily life. Like people who live by the ocean today, they understood that the sea gives and takes. It brings goods and storms, friends and strangers, joy and danger. And maybe, like the sea, the Lycians accepted that life moves in cycles, that nothing stays the same, that even the strongest cliff will change with time. Their tombs suggest a belief in life beyond death, in something more. They didn't fear the end. They prepared for it. Carefully, respectfully. They made sure that even when their names were forgotten, their presence would remain, and it has. So tonight, as you listen to this story, maybe take a moment to think about the marks you've already made, the people you've helped, the kindness you've shared, the moments that seemed small but mattered deeply. Those are your stone carvings, your echoes, your presence. Even if the world forgets the details, it remembers the feeling. That's what the Lycians gave us, a feeling, a sense that they were here, that they lived and loved and believed, that they looked at the same sky we look at now and wondered the same things. If this story touched you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share a place that's special to you, or a memory that feels like it's carved into your heart. And if you want more stories like this, more soft, thoughtful journeys into forgotten worlds, please like, subscribe, and stay close. There's still so much to explore. In the end, the Lycians remind us that even if we dissolve into myth, that doesn't mean we are lost. It just means we've become part of something bigger, a story, a whisper, a cliffside tomb catching the light of the morning sun, still here, still waiting, still listening. The Lycians of Anatolia. Have you ever looked at the edge of a cliff and imagined a city hanging there, halfway between the sky and the sea? Homes carved into stone, where the wind carries stories instead of voices? Imagine walking along a coastline, where every hill holds a secret and every rock seems to watch in silence. Now, imagine that those cities once belonged to people who are now almost forgotten, not because they vanished overnight, but because their names slowly slipped into myth. Before we begin this journey, I'd love to know where you're listening from. Is there a place near you that holds stories from the past? Maybe a mountain, a ruin, or even an old house that makes you wonder who lived there before you. Share it in the comments if you'd like, and if you enjoy these peaceful dives into mystery, please like and subscribe. It means more than you know. Now, let's return to the edge of the cliff. Long ago, along the southern coast of what is now Turkey, there lived a people called the Lycians. They were seafarers, builders, dreamers, but unlike the giant cities of Rome or Athens, the Lycians shaped their world into the land itself. Their homes clung to cliffs, their tombs were carved into solid rock, high above the ground. It was as if they wanted to be close to both the earth and the sky at the same time. And maybe that's the first mystery. Why would anyone build their tombs so high, where it's difficult to reach? What were they trying to say? Were they speaking to the gods? Or maybe to those of us still alive, reminding us to look up and wonder? There's something hauntingly beautiful about the way the Lycians lived. They didn't leave behind endless books or long speeches. They didn't try to conquer the world, but they carved their lives into stone, into hills, into time. And even now their presence lingers, not loud but quiet, not commanding but unforgettable. It's a little like those parts of ourselves that we try to hold on to even when life changes. Old dreams, childhood hopes, pieces of who we were before things became more complicated. Sometimes we don't notice how important those parts are until we feel their absence, just like the Lycians, once real, now distant, but still part of the landscape. The Lycians lived in small kingdoms, scattered along the coast. They were not ruled by one great king, but instead by many leaders, each in their own city. This gave them a kind of freedom, but also made them fragile. Over time, they were pulled into larger empires, first the Persians, then the Greeks, then the Romans, and with each new power, a little more of their voice was lost, but their stone tombs remained. You can still find them today. Some look like small houses carved carefully into cliff faces. Others are shaped like boats turned upside down. They believed that the soul could journey after death, and maybe they thought of the boat as a symbol of that passage, from one world to the next, from sea to sky, from memory to myth. It's easy to see the connection between their world and ours. Think about the things we build to last. Photos saved on phones, messages written to loved ones, even social media posts we hope someone will read and remember. In our own way, we are always trying to leave a mark, to be seen, to matter, just like the Lycians did. But the paradox is this: no matter how carefully we build, time still moves forward. People forget, empires shift, stories fade, and yet some things remain. A carved rock, a strange name, a feeling. The Lycians spoke a language that is now mostly forgotten. We can guess at parts of it. We've found inscriptions. We know a few meanings. But not enough to understand their full thoughts, their songs, their poems, their jokes. Those things are gone. And yet their silence speaks loudly. It tells us that history is not only written by the loudest voices. Sometimes it's written in the quietest corners, on the side of a mountain, in the shape of a tomb, in the silence of forgotten names. This is where the story of the Lycians touches something deeper, because it reminds us of something many of us feel but don't often say: the fear of being forgotten, of being just one voice in a world that moves fast, a world that sometimes seems to forget things too easily. Our faces change, our routines change, our surroundings shift, and we wonder, will anyone remember us? Not just what we did, but who we were. The Lycians didn't have huge armies or towering statues, but they built something that could not be ignored: presence, a sense that someone was there, that someone cared enough to carve a doorway into stone, to place a tomb where the wind could touch it and the sea could see it. Even their name carries mystery. Lycia. It sounds soft and ancient. It feels like a whisper from the past. No one is sure what they called themselves. The name we use today was likely given to them by others. But that's often how history works. We are remembered not always as we truly were, but as others choose to describe us. In that way, the Lycians are like a memory passed down through many voices, each one adding something, each one losing something. until the memory becomes a story, and the story becomes a legend. Still, something about the Lycians feels real, close, familiar. They lived with the sea as their companion. The waves were part of their daily life. Like people who live by the ocean today, they understood that the sea gives and takes. It brings goods and storms, friends and strangers, joy and danger. And maybe, like the sea, the Lycians accepted that life moves in cycles, that nothing stays the same, that even the strongest cliff will change with time. Their tombs suggest a belief in life beyond death, in something more. They didn't fear the end, they prepared for it. Carefully, respectfully, they made sure that even when their names were forgotten, their presence would remain, and it has. So tonight, as you listen to this story, maybe take a moment to think about the marks you've already made, the people you've helped, the kindness you've shared, the moments that seemed small but mattered deeply. Those are your stone carvings, your echoes, your presence. Even if the world forgets the details, it remembers the feeling. That's what the Lycians gave us, a feeling, a sense that they were here, that they lived and loved and believed, that they looked at the same sky we look at now and wondered the same things. If this story touched you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share a place that's special to you, or a memory that feels like it's carved into your heart. And if you want more stories like this, more soft, thoughtful journeys into forgotten worlds, please like, subscribe, and stay close. There's still so much to explore. In the end, the Lycians remind us that even if we dissolve into myth, that doesn't mean we are lost. It just means we've become part of something bigger, a story, a whisper, a cliffside tomb catching the light of the morning sun, still here, still waiting, still listening. The Kingdom of Punt. Imagine a place so mysterious that even the greatest explorers of its time could only guess where it was. A land filled with treasures that smelled of sweet spices and rare woods, gifts so precious they were spoken of in hushed tones across ancient halls. This was the Kingdom of Punt, a realm both near and far, known but unknown, real yet wrapped in mystery. Have you ever felt drawn to something you couldn't quite touch or understand? Like a dream just beyond your reach? Maybe a story from your childhood, a place you heard about but never saw. If so, share where you are right now, or tell me about something mysterious from your life. We're all connected by these quiet questions and shared wonder. Let's gently step back into history to explore this paradox: how a kingdom could be so important, so respected, yet remain hidden in time and memory. The Kingdom of Punt was famous in the ancient world. The Egyptians called it Ta-Netjer, or the Land of the Gods. They sent ships across the sea not for conquest or war, but to trade. They sought its treasures: fragrant resins, precious gold, ebony wood, and the rarest ivory. These were not everyday items, but luxuries that shaped cultures, religions, and lives. Imagine waiting for the rain on a hot summer day, watching clouds gather slowly, wondering if they will bring relief or pass you by. That feeling of hope mixed with uncertainty captures the mystery of Punt. It was a place that brought wonder and riches, yet its true nature was never fully clear to those who sought it. The Egyptians described their journeys in detailed reliefs: ships sailing on calm waters, men carrying exotic goods, offerings made to pharaohs. But as centuries passed, the exact location of Punt slipped away. Scholars and explorers have debated whether it was on the African coast, deep in the Arabian Peninsula, or somewhere lost to time altogether. This uncertainty is a paradox in itself. How can something so celebrated become so elusive? It reminds us of moments in our own lives, when we chase after goals, friendships, or moments of happiness that seem close, yet somehow remain just out of reach. We try to hold on to memories, but they fade, like mist in the morning sun. The story of Punt also touches the way we use language and stories to build meaning. The Egyptians used words and images to capture their experience of Punt. But language has limits. It can describe treasures and journeys, but it struggles to contain mystery or the unknown. Sometimes what is most important cannot be fully explained or understood. It lives in the space between words, in the feelings we carry. Think about how you describe a place that feels like home but has no clear borders, or a person whose presence lingers long after they leave. These are paradoxes of human experience, clear and unclear, known and unknown at the same time. This paradox goes deeper. It connects with how we think about belief and memory. The kingdom of Punt was revered, almost sacred, to the Egyptians. Their stories show respect and awe, but over time the details blurred, like how we hold on to beliefs that give us comfort, even if we cannot prove them, or how memories change with time, becoming more about feeling than fact. In today's world, the paradox of Punt might even reflect in how we understand technology and artificial intelligence. We create tools and machines that carry knowledge and data, but can they ever truly capture mystery, spirit, or wonder? AI can process information, but can it feel the scent of fragrant resins or the quiet awe of a distant land? The things that make us human are sometimes beyond code and logic. The kingdom of Punt teaches us patience and humility. It reminds us that some mysteries are meant to stay mysterious. That's not failure, it's part of the dance between knowing and not knowing. Sometimes the journey itself, the search for Punt, is more important than finding the exact spot on a map. Every day, we experience our own Punt moments. Dreams that feel real but hard to pin down. Hopes that shimmer just out of reach. These moments ask us to slow down, breathe, and appreciate the unknown as part of life's beauty. If this story moved you, please leave a like or a comment below. Tell me about a mystery or a moment you treasure but can't quite explain. Your thoughts matter here, and if you want to keep exploring hidden histories and quiet wonders with us, please subscribe and stay along for the journey. Because in the end, whether it's a lost kingdom or a forgotten feeling, some mysteries hold us gently, inviting us to wonder, remember, and dream. The Jomon culture of Japan, the ancient art that whispers through time. Imagine holding a fragile piece of clay that was shaped thousands of years ago, so fragile that one wrong touch might crumble it into dust. Yet, that same clay vessel still holds the story of a people long gone, quiet but speaking through its twisted rope patterns. This is the paradox of the Jomon culture of Japan, a culture that left no written words, yet its pottery tells a silent story louder than many books. It's like hearing a whisper from the past, inviting us to listen deeply even when there are no voices. Have you ever found something old or forgotten, maybe a family heirloom or an object in an attic, that suddenly made you feel connected to a time you never lived? Or maybe you have a place near you where history seems to sleep beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered. If you do, share where you are or what you found in the comments. It helps us feel connected across the miles, sharing the mystery and wonder of these silent stories. The Jomon people lived in Japan from about 14,000 years ago to roughly 300 BC. They were expert potters long before writing or modern cities. Their name, Jomon, means rope pattern, because they decorated their pottery by pressing twisted ropes into wet clay, leaving unique designs that still amaze archaeologists today. What feels strange and fascinating is how these simple patterns have lasted through thousands of years, often buried deep beneath thick forests and soil, as if nature itself wanted to protect these stories. Think of the last time you baked something. At home, maybe a loaf of bread or a batch of cookies. You mixed simple ingredients like flour, water, and salt, then shaped the dough before putting it in the oven. Now imagine someone thousands of years ago doing something similar but with clay and fire. They didn't have fancy tools or machines, only their hands, the earth's clay, and fire they made themselves. And yet the shapes they made were not just useful. They were beautiful, meaningful, and full of care. It's a reminder that even the simplest things in life can carry deep meaning. But here lies the paradox. These vessels were both practical and artistic. They were used to store food, cook meals, and carry water. Yet the designs show a deep connection to the natural world and possibly to spiritual beliefs. What exactly those beliefs were, we may never know, because the Jomon people left no written record. So we look at their pottery like a puzzle, trying to piece together their story from the shapes and patterns that survived. It's like trying to understand a poem written in a language no longer spoken. This paradox mirrors something many of us feel today. We live in a world full of noise and information, yet sometimes the quietest things speak the loudest. Like a message in a bottle drifting through time, the Jomon pottery invites us to slow down, to notice small details, and to find meaning beyond words. It's a gentle reminder that not everything important needs to be shouted or written in a book. Sometimes the simplest acts, making, creating, leaving a mark, are the most powerful ways to be remembered. You might wonder how this connects to bigger ideas like belief, language, or even modern technology. The Jomon vessels show us that human expression doesn't always need language to exist. Their art speaks a universal language, patterns and shapes that inspire curiosity and wonder. In a way, this challenges how we think about communication. Could it be that some truths are better felt than spoken? This idea connects deeply with mental health, reminding us that sometimes silence, reflection, and quiet creativity are healing in ways words cannot describe. Even artificial intelligence, which learns from language and data, faces limits when it tries to understand human creativity beyond words. The Jomon pottery is an example of expression before words, art that an AI might struggle to fully grasp. This invites us to think about what makes us uniquely human. The ability to create, meaning in silence, to share feelings and stories without speaking. It's a mystery that feels both ancient and modern, bridging thousands of years with the simple touch of a rope pattern on clay. Imagine walking through a forest in Japan, the air cool and still, and stumbling upon shards of pottery half buried in the soil. Each piece is a quiet messenger from the past, telling us that life existed here long before us, full of creativity, care, and mystery. It invites you to pause, breathe, and wonder about the people who once shaped this earth with their hands. This peaceful connection across time is rare and precious. Before we dive deeper, if you enjoy stories like this that mix history, mystery, and quiet reflection, please like this video and subscribe. Share your thoughts or experiences in the comments. Maybe you felt the power of silent stories in your own life. Your voice helps build a community of curious minds who find wonder in the simple and the ancient. The story of the Jomon culture is not just about pottery. It's about connection between people and nature, past and present, silence and meaning. It challenges us to see beauty in what seems ordinary and to listen to stories that don't use words. It reminds us that some of the most lasting things in life are those created with care and left quietly behind. In everyday life, we can find similar paradoxes. Think about a quiet moment with a friend, where no words are spoken, but a feeling is shared. Or consider a letter or photograph that someone left behind, carrying memories without needing an explanation. These moments remind us that connection and meaning often come in simple forms, not grand gestures or loud declarations. The Jomon vessels also teach patience. It took skill and time to make each piece, just as it takes time to understand the stories they tell. Today, in a fast world, slowing down can feel strange or difficult. Yet by looking at these ancient pots, we learn the value of careful attention, of creating with intention, and of honoring things that last beyond a single lifetime. So next time you see something old or handmade, whether it's a family photo, a piece of art, or even a simple object with a story, take a moment to appreciate the layers of meaning it holds. Like the Jomon pottery, these things are more than they seem. They are bridges connecting us to the past, to each other, and to something deeper inside ourselves. In the end, the Jomon culture's legacy is a gentle mystery. It shows how something as fragile as clay can outlive its makers and keep whispering stories across millennia. It invites us to listen carefully to the quiet moments around us and to remember that even the smallest mark can carry a world of meaning. It's a story that belongs to all of us, waiting to be discovered, understood, and shared with calm wonder. If you felt calm and curious during this story, please like, comment, and subscribe to keep exploring these quiet mysteries together. Your presence here makes the journey richer, connecting us all through stories whispered by time itself. The Cucuteni Tripilia culture, the vanished cities buried in silence. Imagine walking across a quiet field in Eastern Europe where nothing seems to grow except wild grass and flowers. Beneath your feet, though, lie the remains of cities so large and complex that they once rivaled the great ancient capitals we hear about in history books. These were built by the Cucuteni Tripilia people thousands of years ago, people who shaped their world with clay bricks and imagination, only to disappear, without a clear trace. The paradox is this: how could such grand cities, filled with life and warmth, simply vanish and become silent fields? Have you ever felt like you were part of something bigger, yet somehow invisible? Maybe you've walked past an old house or an empty street that once buzzed with laughter and stories but now feels strangely empty. If you have, please share where you've felt this kind of quiet mystery in the comments. It's a way to connect with others who feel the pull of lost histories and hidden stories. The Cucuteni Tripilia culture existed around 5,000 to 3,000 years ago in what is now Ukraine, Moldova, and Romania. They built enormous settlements, some covering dozens of hectares, larger than any known cities of their time in Europe. Their homes were made of baked clay bricks, and they arranged their towns in circular patterns, like rings of life around a central space. Imagine neighborhoods, built with such care that they formed a perfect circle, almost like a sacred shape. It's a pattern that still fascinates archaeologists and invites us to wonder about the meaning behind these designs. To picture it simply, think about your own neighborhood. Imagine if your street, your house, and your friends' homes were all built in a huge circle, with everyone facing inward toward a shared center. This would create a strong sense of community, connection, and shared life. The Cucuteni Tripilia people may have designed their towns with this intention, keeping their community close, safe, and connected. Yet, despite their care and effort, their towns were abandoned, their hearths, the warm centers of family life, went cold, and over time, nature quietly took over. This is the paradox. How can something so carefully made, so full of life, just disappear? What happened to these people? Scholars have many theories. Some say they left because of climate changes, others suggest invasion or resource depletion, and some believe they simply moved on to new places. But none of these explanations feels complete, leaving us with a mystery wrapped in the silence of the fields today. It reminds us that even the strongest human creations are fragile and temporary in the long sweep of time. This paradox connects to experiences we all know. Think about a relationship that once felt alive but slowly faded away, or a place you loved but had to leave. There's something deeply human about building, caring, and then losing. The Cucuteni Tripilia culture's vanished towns are a powerful symbol of that feeling, how warmth and life can retreat, leaving only echoes. It's a gentle reminder that change is part of life, even when it feels sudden or mysterious. But this story is more than just about lost cities. It touches on bigger ideas like belief, language, and memory. The Cucuteni Tripilia people left no written language, so their stories come to us through pottery, clay bricks, and the shapes of their towns. Their art was rich with symbols, animals, and spirals, patterns that might have held meaning we cannot fully understand. This shows us how human beings have always tried to communicate, to leave marks for the future, even without words. It's a form of language that is silent yet full of meaning. In today's world, where words dominate our communication, this challenges us to think about how much meaning we miss when we only listen to speech or writing. Nonverbal signs, art, and symbols carry deep truths that often speak directly to our feelings and imagination. For mental health, this is important. Sometimes when words fail, creativity and silence offer healing paths that are just as real and important. Artificial intelligence, which depends on language and data, also faces limits here. How does a machine understand the meaning behind a spiral painted on ancient pottery or the feeling of a circular town long vanished? This paradox invites us to recognize the mysteries that lie beyond logic and data, inside human creativity and spirit. Imagine standing where a Cucuteni Tripilia town once thrived, feeling the soft wind on your skin and the sun warming the quiet earth. There is a strange beauty in knowing that beneath you are stories of families, festivals, daily life, and vanished worlds. It asks you to slow down and listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart. Before we explore this story further, if you enjoy learning about hidden histories and silent mysteries, please like this video and subscribe to join our community. Share your own experiences with lost places or silent stories in the comments. Your voice helps build a space where curiosity and wonder grow together. The Cucuteni Tripilia culture's story teaches us patience and humility. They remind us that time changes everything, and that even the grandest human achievements are delicate and temporary. Yet these vanished towns also show the lasting power of care, creativity, and connection. Though the people are gone, their circular towns still inspire us to think deeply about community and belonging. Everyday life gives us small glimpses of this paradox. A family photo tucked away in a drawer, an old song that brings back memories, or a quiet place where you once felt joy. These are all echoes of past warmth. The vanished towns are like these memories, waiting beneath the surface to be remembered and honored. The gentle curves of the Cucuteni Tripilian towns invite us to see life as a circle, not just a line from birth to death, but a continuous connection. They remind us that community, art, and shared stories are what give life meaning, even after the people themselves have disappeared. In the end, the Cucuteni Tripilian culture's vanished cities are a mystery that calls us to listen, with care and wonder. They teach us that silence can speak, that loss can inspire, and that even when warmth fades, the marks we leave behind hold a quiet magic. It's a story of human hope and fragility, one that connects us all across time and space. If this story brought you calm curiosity, please like, comment, and subscribe to keep exploring these ancient mysteries with us. Your presence here creates a community that values the quiet whispers of history, helping us all find meaning in the unseen and the forgotten. The Norte Chico civilization, the mystery of the mountain mists. Imagine a world where great pyramids rise quietly from ancient earth, not built by kings demanding glory, but by people whose voices have vanished into the misty mountains. This was the Norte Chico civilization, one of the oldest in the Americas, who created incredible structures and a mysterious system of knots called quipu to record their lives. Yet, they left no written words behind, and their story fades like the morning fog that drifts across the Andes. How could such an advanced culture simply disappear without leaving us a clear message? This is a puzzle that draws us into the quiet mystery of lost knowledge and forgotten voices. Have you ever experienced a place shrouded in fog or mist, where shapes blur and sounds soften? Maybe on a cool morning or after rain, when the world feels both close and distant at the same time? If you have, share where you felt this strange blend of presence and absence in the comments below. It's a simple way to connect with others who understand the beauty and mystery of silence and shadows. The Norte Chico civilization existed over 4,000 years ago along the coast of modern-day Peru. They built massive pyramid-like structures and complex communities long before the famous Inca civilization rose to power. Their pyramids were not covered with gold or decorated with statues, but shaped with careful precision from earth and stone. Imagine walking through those ancient sites, feeling the warmth of the sun on smooth walls and hearing the wind whisper through empty plazas. They also developed quipu, a system of colored strings and knots used to keep records. Without written language like we know today, quipu served as a way to store information about trade, resources, or perhaps even stories and laws. It's like having a book made of threads and knots instead of words. This system puzzles historians and scientists because it challenges our idea that words on paper or screens are the only way to communicate and remember. To make this clearer, think about a secret code you might use with a friend, like colors, or patterns to mean certain things. Quipu was something like that, but on a much larger scale. It shows us that human beings have always found ways to connect and share knowledge, even when they don't have written letters. This simple yet clever system speaks to the creativity and adaptability of people facing challenges of their time. But, despite their achievements, the Norte Chico civilization faded away, swallowed by the mountain mists and time itself. There are no stories they left behind in writing, no royal chronicles or poems. Their disappearance is a quiet mystery, like a book with missing pages or a song that ends abruptly. We don't know exactly why or how they dissolved, only that their world changed and their culture disappeared. This paradox feels familiar. Many of us have experienced moments when we lose something important, a job, a friendship, a dream that once shaped our lives. It's a gentle reminder that change is constant and sometimes hard to explain. Like the Norte Chico, we face uncertainties, and often we must move forward without clear answers. The story of the Norte Chico civilization invites us to think about belief and memory. How do we keep our histories alive if we do not write them down? For thousands of years, oral traditions, art, and objects have carried stories across generations. The Norte Chico show us that memory is not just words but also shapes, colors, and feelings. This is an important lesson for mental health. Sometimes, when words fail us, other ways of expression, like music, art, or touch, help us heal and connect. In the modern world, where computers and AI depend heavily on written and digital information, the Quipu reminds us of limits. How does a machine interpret a complex knot or the meaning behind the shape of a pyramid? This paradox challenges us to appreciate human intuition, creativity, and the mysteries that go beyond data and code. Picture yourself standing in the early morning, surrounded by the quiet ruins of the Norte Chico pyramids. The air is cool, and the mist wraps around you softly, hiding and revealing pieces of the past. There is a calm beauty in this silence, a sense that some stories are meant to be felt rather than fully understood. It asks you to slow down and listen with more than your ears, with your heart and imagination. Before we go deeper into this ancient mystery, if you find yourself drawn to stories of lost civilizations and quiet wonders, please like this video and subscribe to our community. Share in the comments if you've ever visited a place that felt touched by history and mystery, or where silence told a story. The Norte Chico civilization teaches us humility and wonder. They remind us that knowledge and greatness are not always about loud voices or written records. Sometimes the most profound histories are held in subtle patterns, in shadows, and in the spaces between words. Their vanished culture whispers a message about the fragility and resilience of human life, showing us that even without words, meaning can survive. Everyday moments reflect this paradox too. A smile shared without speaking, a memory held in a photograph, or the comfort of a hand on your shoulder can carry more than words ever could. Like the knots of the Quipu, these small connections form the threads of our lives. The pyramids themselves, rising silently from the earth, remind us that human effort leaves marks beyond what we see. They stand as symbols of hope, community, and creativity, reminders that even in the face of disappearance, something beautiful remains. In the end, the Norte Chico civilization is a story of mystery and quiet power. It invites us to look beyond the obvious, to find meaning in the unseen, and to respect the many ways humans have expressed themselves through time. It asks us to accept the unknown as part of life, and to find peace in the soft mist of history. If this story filled you with calm curiosity, please like, comment, and subscribe to continue exploring these quiet mysteries with us. Your presence here helps create a space where wonder and silence meet, and where the whispers of the past can be heard again. The Kingdom of Urartu. Fortresses in the shadow of time. Imagine standing on a windswept hill overlooking a vast, shimmering lake. Around you rise the ruins of stone fortresses, once proud and strong, guarding a kingdom that thrived thousands of years ago. This was the kingdom of Urartu, high in the mountains near what we now call Lake Van. They built massive stone citadels, places of strength and safety, yet today those walls crumble quietly, reminders of a world that changed as new powers rose and old ones fell. How does something so solid and lasting slowly fade away, becoming only stones in the wind? This mystery invites us to think about the fragile nature of power, memory, and human effort. Have you ever watched a strong building or a favorite place slowly change, fall apart, or disappear? Maybe an old house where you once felt safe, or a tree you climbed as a child? These quiet moments of loss are small but real ways we all experience the passage of time. Share in the comments if you have a place that holds memories for you, somewhere that feels strong but also fragile. The Kingdom of Urartu existed around 3,000 years ago in the highlands near the edge of what is now Turkey and Armenia. Their people were skilled builders and fierce defenders. Their fortresses were made of stone designed to withstand attacks in the harsh mountain weather. Imagine how these strong walls echoed with the footsteps of soldiers and the voices of leaders, all working to protect their home and culture. But as history moved forward, new empires and forces rose in the region. The once mighty citadels of Urartu began to crumble, overtaken by nature and time. Their stones, once tightly fitted and proud, now lie scattered or covered in moss. This story is a powerful reminder that nothing lasts forever, no matter how strong it seems at first. To understand this better, think about an exam you prepared for a long time, or a relationship you once thought would last forever. At first, everything feels solid and sure, but sometimes, despite our best efforts, things change in ways we cannot control. The strong fortress of Urartu is like these moments in life: solid, but vulnerable, enduring but not eternal. This paradox helps us explore bigger themes about belief and identity. What does it mean to be strong? Is strength only about physical power and stone walls, or is there a deeper kind of resilience? The Kingdom of Urartu challenges us to think about how we hold on to what matters, even when the outside world changes. It asks us to remember that real strength may come from within, from community, memory, and spirit. In mental health, this can be seen as the struggle to stay grounded when life feels like it's falling apart. Like the crumbling fortresses, our minds sometimes feel fragile, but just as stones can be rebuilt, so too can we find ways to heal and grow. This quiet strength is often invisible but deeply powerful. From the perspective of AI and technology, the story of Urartu raises interesting questions too. Machines may build data structures and digital fortresses that seem unbreakable, but can they understand the slow, human process of change and loss? The ruins remind us that even the mightiest creations have limits, and that wisdom comes in knowing when to hold on and when to let go. Picture yourself walking among the ruins, feeling the rough stones under your hand, and hearing the soft wind that once carried voices of an ancient kingdom. There is a calmness in this silence, a peaceful reminder that time flows in cycles of rise and fall. It invites you to slow your breath and reflect on the quiet beauty of change. Before we explore this further, if stories like this inspire your curiosity, please like this video and subscribe to join our community. Share in the comments if you've ever witnessed a place or moment that made you think about strength and change. The Kingdom of Urartu shows us that while great walls may crumble, the human spirit continues. Their legacy is not only in stones, but in the stories passed down through generations. These stories carry the echoes of strength, courage, and the gentle acceptance of time's passage. Everyday life holds this paradox too. When a friendship fades or a job ends, it may feel like a fortress falling apart. Yet within these moments, new paths and growth can begin. Just like the stones of Urartu, our experiences are pieces of a larger story that continues to unfold. The highland fortresses teach us to find peace in impermanence. They remind us that beauty can exist in the quiet ruins, and that sometimes letting go is part of being strong. They invite us to embrace change with calm and trust in the cycles of life. If this reflection brought you calm and wonder, please like, comment, and subscribe to continue exploring these timeless mysteries together. Your participation helps keep the stories alive, connecting us through the ages and across the world. The Harappans of Dholavira, a city lost to the desert winds. What if a bustling city, full of life and careful planning, could vanish almost without a trace, swallowed quietly by the shifting sands of a desert? Imagine walking where once streets were laid out, homes were built, and people lived their daily lives. Only now the desert reclaims it, hiding the city beneath its endless dunes. This is the story of the Harappans of Dholavira, an ancient urban marvel in Gujarat, India, whose fate was tied deeply to the rhythms of nature. It's a mystery that invites us to reflect on how fragile human achievements can be when the world around us changes without warning. Have you ever experienced something in your life that once felt certain but then shifted unexpectedly? Maybe a change in weather that altered your plans, or a sudden turn in your own life's path. If so, share where you are and how you've faced change. These shared experiences build a quiet community of understanding, reminding us that uncertainty touches us all. Dholavira was part of the ancient Harappan civilization, also known as the Indus Valley Civilization, one of the earliest urban cultures in human history. Around 4,500 years ago, it thrived as a well-planned city with wide streets, advanced water systems, and large public spaces. Its people showed remarkable skill in city planning, using natural resources cleverly to support their population. Imagine how daily life must have felt. Children playing near water reservoirs, merchants trading goods, families gathering around their homes, all under the vast sky of the Indian desert. But something changed. The monsoon patterns, which brought rain essential for their water supply and agriculture, began to shift. The desert slowly crept closer, the rivers that once nourished the city started drying up, and the balance that supported this thriving urban center broke down. Over time, the people left, and the desert reclaimed the land, covering Dholavira with sand and mystery. To understand this better, think about how weather affects your own life. A sunny day can turn into a storm, changing everything around you in moments. Or consider how an exam or a big event might suddenly feel different when unexpected news arrives. Like Dholavira, our lives depend on patterns and balance, yet those patterns can shift without warning, teaching us to adapt or move on. This paradox opens up bigger questions about how humans live in harmony with nature and how fragile that harmony can be. The story of Dholavira is not just about an ancient city lost to time. It's about the delicate dance between human ambition and the environment. It challenges our belief in permanence and asks us to respect the natural forces that shape our world. From the perspective of language and communication, the Harappans left behind symbols and seals that remain undeciphered, adding another layer to the mystery. Their written language, much like their city, has been lost to time. This reminds us how language itself can be fragile, dependent on culture and memory. Sometimes, what we say today may be forgotten tomorrow, or misunderstood across generations. In mental health, this story can resonate deeply. Just like the city's loss, we sometimes experience feelings of disconnection or loss when familiar things in our lives change. Friends move away, routines shift, or we face challenges that seem to erase our sense of stability. Yet, just as the ruins of Dholavira invite new study and wonder, our own losses can lead to growth, new understanding, and fresh beginnings. Even in the world of AI, the Harappan story offers insight. Technology tries to hold and remember vast amounts of data, but without context or understanding, much can be lost or misinterpreted. Like the lost language of the Harappans, information needs meaning and connection to survive. It reminds us that technology alone cannot replace human memory and wisdom. Picture walking through the dusty remains of Dholavira, feeling the heat of the desert sun, hearing the soft whistle of wind through empty streets. There is a peacefulness in this quiet, a space to breathe and reflect on how life moves through cycles of growth, change, and renewal. It encourages us to be calm amid uncertainty and to find beauty even in what seems lost. Before we continue exploring this story, if you find these reflections meaningful, please like this video and subscribe to join our growing community. Share your thoughts or experiences with change and loss in the comments below. Your voice helps us all feel connected in this shared journey. The Harappans of Dolavira remind us that even the greatest human achievements depend on fragile balances. Their city was a marvel of engineering and culture, yet it could not escape the shifts of nature. This teaches us humility and respect for our environment, for time, and for the unseen forces that shape our lives. Every day we face our own deserts, moments when familiar things shift or disappear. Like the Harappans, we are challenged to adapt, to rebuild, and to find meaning in change. The ruins left behind are not just reminders of what is gone, but invitations to imagine what can come next. The calm silence of Dolavira's remains encourages us to slow down and listen. It reminds us that strength is not only in building walls or cities, but in the quiet acceptance of life's impermanence. It asks us to trust the cycles of nature and life, knowing that endings lead to new beginnings. If this story brought you peace or sparked your curiosity, please like, comment, and subscribe to explore more mysteries like this together. Your support keeps these ancient tales alive, connecting us across time and place and helping us find calm in the ever-changing flow of life. The Sumerians of Mesopotamia. Echoes of the world's first cities. Imagine standing where the very first cities in human history rose from the dusty earth, long before modern skyscrapers or bustling towns. These were places full of life, where people gathered, traded, worshipped, and dreamed. Yet now only ruins remain, with the names of gods whispered quietly through the winds that sweep the ancient plains of Mesopotamia. The Sumerians, founders of these earliest cities, created a world that shaped the future, but their cities, too, became mysteries. Echoes of a time when humans first built the foundations of civilization. Have you ever visited a place where history felt alive? Maybe an old building, a quiet street, or a simple ruin that seemed to hold stories in its stones. If so, share your experience or where you're from. It's through these shared stories that we feel connected across time and space, bridging the gap between past and present. The Sumerians lived over 5,000 years ago in the region now known as southern Iraq. They built the first known cities in the world, Ur, Uruk, Eridu, centers of culture, innovation, and religion. Picture these cities as bustling hubs filled with markets, temples, and homes made of sun-baked bricks. Streets were alive with merchants, craftsmen, priests, and families. Their lives were deeply tied to the land and the rivers Tigris and Euphrates, whose waters fed the fields and sustained their growth. But the Sumerians left more than just bricks and walls. They invented writing, cuneiform, pressing symbols into clay tablets that recorded their laws, stories, and business deals. Their gods had names and faces, and their temples reached toward the sky as places to honor these divine beings. This first written language gave them a voice that could cross centuries, though today much of it remains a puzzle for us to understand fully. Now think about your own everyday life. Just as the Sumerians depended on the river's flow, we depend on routines and rhythms, waking up, going to work or school, connecting with others. But what happens when these routines change suddenly, like when rain turns to storm or a friend moves away? These small shifts can feel unsettling, much like the eventual decline of Sumerian cities when the balance between nature, society, and politics broke down. This brings us to a fascinating paradox: how something so grand and important, like the birth of cities and writing, can fade into silence and mystery. The ruins remind us that even great civilizations are fragile, subject to change and loss. It teaches us humility, that no matter how advanced we become, we remain part of a bigger, unpredictable world. The story of the Sumerians also touches our beliefs. They worshipped many gods, each representing different forces of nature and life. This ancient belief system helped them explain the unknown, much like humans today seek meaning in spirituality or science. It shows how language and culture shape our understanding of existence, helping us cope with life's uncertainties. From a mental health perspective, the rise and fall of the Sumerian cities echo the cycles of human emotion. Joy, growth, struggle, and loss, all part of the human experience. When we feel overwhelmed or uncertain, remembering that ancient people faced similar challenges can offer comfort and perspective. We are not alone in navigating the changes of life. Even artificial intelligence connects to this story. The Sumerians' invention of writing was an early form of recording and processing information, a human attempt to preserve knowledge beyond memory. Today, AI continues this legacy, helping us store and understand vast amounts of data. But just like ancient texts that require interpretation, AI's outputs need careful understanding to be meaningful. Picture the quiet ruins of Uruk or Eridu under the desert sun, the wind carrying whispers of past voices. There is a calm beauty in these echoes, a space to breathe and reflect on how all human achievements rest on fragile foundations. It invites us to appreciate the present while honoring the past. Before we explore deeper into this story, if you find this journey meaningful, please like the video and subscribe to our community. Share your thoughts or stories about places where history feels close to you. Your voice helps us all connect through time and space. The Sumerians teach us that the beginnings of civilization were also the beginnings of mystery and loss. Their cities, once full of life, remind us that time changes everything. Yet through their ruins and writings, they continue to speak to us about human creativity, resilience, and the search for meaning in an ever-changing world. Every one of us builds something: relationships, careers, dreams. Yet like the Sumerians, we must face the reality that nothing lasts forever. This story encourages gentle acceptance of change and invites curiosity about what remains when time moves. In the quiet echo of ancient Mesopotamia, we find both loss and hope. We learn to listen deeply, to find peace in impermanence, and to carry forward the wisdom of those who came before. If this story inspired you, please like, comment, and subscribe to join us in uncovering more hidden echoes from history. Together, we connect across ages and cultures, finding calm and wonder in the mysteries of human life and the cities that once thrived, where now only silence remains. The Sea Peoples, vanished raiders of the Bronze Age. Imagine a storm on the horizon, dark clouds gathering over a calm sea. Ships appear out of the mist, fierce and swift, carrying strangers whose names we don't know, whose faces are lost to time. These were the Sea Peoples, mysterious warriors whose raids swept across the ancient Bronze Age kingdoms. They changed the course of history, only to disappear themselves, swallowed by the endless waves of legend. Their story feels like a whisper from the past, both powerful and elusive, like a dream that fades just as you try to hold it. Have you ever felt like a stranger in a new place? Perhaps you moved to a new town, started a new job, or even met people who seemed so different from you. If so, share your experience or where you are from. It's through sharing these stories that we build connection and understanding, just as we try to piece together the story of the Sea Peoples, whose origins remain a mystery. The Sea Peoples were not a single group, but a confederation. Many tribes or clans coming together, sailing across the Mediterranean with unknown goals. They appeared suddenly, attacking coastal cities and kingdoms with a force that shook the ancient world. Their raids contributed to the collapse of great civilizations. The Hittites, the Mycenaeans, even parts of ancient Egypt felt their impact. Think about your own life and the sudden changes that come without warning. A storm that disrupts your plans or a sudden challenge that feels hard to face. Just like those ancient kingdoms, we are vulnerable to forces beyond our control. The Sea Peoples remind us that history is not always a straight path. Sometimes unexpected events change everything. The paradox here is striking. These people, shaped history with great power, but vanished without a trace. We know about their attacks because ancient writers recorded them, often blaming these outsiders for their misfortunes. Yet the Sea Peoples left no clear record of themselves. Who were they? Where did they come from? Why did they disappear? These questions remain unanswered, wrapped in mystery. This story invites us to reflect on belief and storytelling. Ancient kingdoms told stories to explain their losses, often blaming outsiders like the Sea Peoples. It shows how history can be shaped by perspective, by who writes the story. Today, we face similar challenges. How do we understand events when different voices tell different tales? It teaches us to seek deeper understanding and to question simple answers. From a mental health viewpoint, the Sea People's story echoes feelings of uncertainty and fear. Imagine living in a time of raids and destruction, where safety was never guaranteed. It reminds us how fragile peace can be and how important it is to find calm within chaos. It encourages gentle acceptance of what we cannot control and compassion for those facing hardship. Even in the world of artificial intelligence, this story finds meaning. The Sea People's history is built from fragments, clues found in ruins, inscriptions, and old tales. Similarly, AI pieces together knowledge from scattered data to make sense of the world. But just as historians must interpret incomplete records carefully, AI requires thoughtful guidance to avoid mistakes. Both remind us how much is still unknown and how curiosity drives discovery. Imagine standing on a quiet shore, watching the waves roll in. The Sea Peoples disappeared into waters like these, leaving only questions behind. Their story feels like a riddle, a reminder that some mysteries remain beyond our grasp. It invites us to slow down, breathe deeply, and listen to the quiet spaces between what we know. Before we dive further into this fascinating tale, if you are enjoying this journey, please like the video and subscribe. Share your thoughts or stories about mysterious places or people in your life. Your voice helps us all feel connected, even across time and distance. The Sea Peoples teach us that history is full of unknowns. They remind us that great forces can come and go, leaving marks, but also mysteries. Their legacy is not just about destruction, but about the questions they leave behind, questions that spark curiosity and wonder. In our own lives, we face mysteries too, about who we are, where we come from, and where we are going. The Sea People's story encourages us to embrace these mysteries gently, with calm and curiosity. It shows us that not all answers are clear, but the search itself is meaningful. In the quiet moments by the sea, we can imagine the distant past and the restless spirits of those vanished raiders. We feel a connection to the endless rhythm of the waves, constant change, quiet return, and the timeless dance of mystery and discovery. If this story moved you, please like, comment, and subscribe to join our community of curious minds. Together, we explore the deep echoes of history, finding calm and wonder in the unknown. The Mitanni Kingdom, horse lords and lost palaces. Imagine standing in a quiet field, the wind soft and steady, when suddenly the sound of hooves echoes in the distance. Horses gallop across the open land, powerful and free. This is the world of the Mitanni Kingdom, horse lords who ruled northern Syria long ago. They were skilled warriors and diplomats, crafting treaties on clay tablets. Yet today, their grand palaces lie buried beneath the earth, hidden from sight. It's a story of strength and mystery, where powerful voices are silent and ancient grandeur waits to be rediscovered. Have you ever felt connected to a place that seems to hold secrets beneath its surface? Maybe a childhood home, a forgotten path, or a quiet park where stories whisper in the breeze. If so, share your experience or where you are right now. These shared moments help us build a sense of community, connecting us across time and distance, much like the echoes of the Mitanni Kingdom connect us to the past. The Mitanni were not just rulers, but horse masters. In a time when horses were rare and valuable, they trained and bred them with care. These horses were more than animals. They were symbols of power, speed, and status. The Mitanni used horses to travel, fight, and impress allies. Their treaties, written on fragile clay tablets, show a world where words held power, where agreements between kings shaped the future. Think about your own life and the promises you make, whether with friends, family, or at work. These simple acts of trust shape relationships and communities. Like the treaties of the Mitanni, our words and agreements can create safety and connection. Yet, just like ancient clay tablets that can break or fade, words can be fragile. They need care and respect to last. The paradox of the Mitanni kingdom lies in what remains and what is lost. Their treaties survive etched in clay, telling us about diplomacy and power, but their palaces, once filled with life and grandeur, have sunk into the earth. We can read their words, but cannot walk their halls. It is a reminder of how history preserves some things and lets others disappear. This paradox invites reflection on belief and language. The Mitanni believed in the strength of their words and the might of their horses. Their treaties were promises, sealed with respect and fear. Today we also rely on words, spoken, written, digital, to shape our world. Yet like the ancient tablets, these words can be misunderstood, lost, or ignored. It reminds us to be careful with language and to listen deeply. From a mental health perspective, the story of the Mitanni touches on themes of presence and absence. Their palaces are gone, yet their treaties remain. This contrast mirrors feelings of loss and memory in our own lives, moments when people or places disappear, but their impact lingers. It encourages gentle acceptance and the understanding that even when something is lost, it can still shape who we are. In the realm of artificial intelligence, the Mitanni's clay tablets are like data, small pieces that help build a larger picture. AI gathers fragments of information to learn and make decisions, just as historians gather tablets and ruins to understand ancient kingdoms. This shows the power and limits of knowledge, reminding us that behind every piece of data, there is a deeper story waiting to be told. Imagine walking through a quiet field again, the sun warm on your face, the sound of distant hooves fading into the wind. The Mitanni kingdom lives in these moments, hidden, waiting, quietly shaping the story of human history. Their legacy is both a mystery and an invitation to explore, to listen, and to wonder. Before we go deeper into this tale, if you feel drawn to this journey, please like the video and subscribe. Share your thoughts or stories about forgotten places or moments in your life. Your voice adds to our shared experience, connecting us all. The Mitanni kingdom teaches us about the power of words and the mystery of what time hides. Their treaties remind us that promises matter, and their lost palaces remind us that even the greatest achievements can fade. This story encourages us to treasure what we have and to be curious about what lies beneath the surface. In our own lives, we face similar paradoxes, things we cherish that may one day be lost, and words we speak that shape the future. The Mitanni story invites us to hold these truths gently, to be mindful of our promises, and to embrace the mystery of life's unfolding. As the wind continues to move softly through the fields, let us remember the horse lords of northern Syria, their strength, their silence, and their story that whispers across the ages. In quiet moments, we can feel connected to them, and through curiosity and calm, keep their memory alive. If this story touched you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Join our community as we explore the hidden histories that shape our world, finding peace and wonder in the mysteries that surround us. The Maya of El Mirador, pyramids in the jungle's embrace. Imagine standing in the middle of a dense jungle, the air thick with the smell of wet earth and the sounds of unseen creatures all around. Suddenly, through the thick green leaves, you catch a glimpse of an enormous stepped pyramid rising high, ancient and silent. This was El Mirador, a city of the Maya, built thousands of years ago deep in the Petén jungles. They created colossal pyramids that once touched the sky, but now the Yavish forest has slowly wrapped itself around these stone giants, swallowing the city back into nature. It is a mystery both awe-inspiring and humbling, a grand story of human creativity, loss, and the quiet power of time. Have you ever walked somewhere where nature seemed to quietly take back what was once made by people? Perhaps an old building, a forgotten garden, or a simple path overgrown with grass. Share where you have seen such places in your life. These moments remind us that everything we build is part of a cycle: growth, decline, and renewal, and connect us with the world's endless rhythms. The Maya of El Mirador built their pyramids with great care and skill. These stepped pyramids were more than just buildings. They were centers of life, ceremony, and culture. Imagine the labor and love poured into these structures, stone by stone, year after year. In many ways, it's like preparing for a big exam or a life event. Effort that feels important and urgent. Yet, like those events, even the greatest human efforts can be quieted by time. Think about a garden in your neighborhood or a park you visit. Sometimes, if no one tends to it, plants grow wild, reclaiming the land. This simple example shows how nature patiently waits to reclaim what people leave behind. The Maya pyramids teach us a similar lesson. No matter how grand our creations, the natural world continues its gentle, steady presence, inviting us to reflect on balance. This paradox, where something magnificent is lost yet becomes part of something larger, invites us to think about belief and language. The Maya believed their pyramids connected earth and sky, humans and gods. Their stories and symbols were woven into every stone. Today, we also build beliefs and stories that shape our lives. But like the jungle reclaiming El Mirador, time softens these beliefs, asking us to hold them gently, with openness to change. In terms of mental health, the Maya story reflects themes of impermanence and acceptance. Life can feel like a busy city full of pressure and noise. Yet, like the jungle enveloping El Mirador, moments of quiet and surrender are natural and needed. This helps us embrace change without fear, understanding that growth and rest are both part of living well. Even in the world of AI and technology, the Maya pyramids speak a quiet truth. Just as these ancient structures are uncovered slowly by archaeologists, data and information emerge bit by bit, revealing bigger pictures over time. This teaches us patience and the value of gradual discovery, reminding us that understanding often unfolds gently, not all at once. Imagine again that jungle, warm, humid, alive with sounds, and the great pyramids hidden there. They remind us that beneath every story of success and loss lies a deeper mystery. What we build today may one day be forgotten or transformed, yet each effort shapes the future in ways we cannot always see. Before we dive deeper into this story, if you feel connected to this journey, please like the video and subscribe. Share your experiences with places or memories that have changed over time. Your stories enrich this shared exploration and bring us closer together. Maya of El Mirador show us the beauty and mystery of creation and loss. Their pyramids speak quietly of human dreams, nature's patience, and the ever-changing dance between the two. This story invites us to slow down, listen, and find peace in the cycle of building and letting go. As the jungle breathes softly around those ancient stones, we can feel the calm of time passing, the steady rhythm that carries all life. The Maya's legacy lives on, not just in stone, but in the quiet spaces where history, nature, and human spirit meet. If this story moved you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Join us as we continue to explore the hidden histories and gentle mysteries that shape our world. Together we find peace and wonder in the stories waiting quietly beneath the surface. The Libyan Garamanths. Oases in the shifting sands. Imagine creating a thriving oasis in the middle of a vast desert, a place where water flows, trees grow, and life flourishes. Now imagine that over time the very sands around you shift and move, slowly swallowing the life you work so hard to build. This was the story of the Garamantes, an ancient people who carved green havens out of the harsh Sahara Desert. They were desert traders and engineers, turning barren sands into fertile lands, only to see their oases disappear beneath shifting dunes. It is a story of human determination facing nature's quiet, unstoppable forces, a paradox that feels close to home in many ways. Have you ever planted a garden or cared for something precious only to see circumstances change beyond your control? Perhaps a flood, wind, or even a simple forgotten day caused something to wither. Share your stories or your own experiences with change in the comments. Where are you watching nature and life unfold around you? This connection helps us remember we are part of a shared human experience. The Garamantes dug underground channels called fogaras to bring water from deep beneath the desert surface. They made life possible where it seemed impossible. Imagine the effort, like preparing for an important test or working toward a goal that feels just out of reach. They turned the desert into a web of fertile land, markets, and trade routes. This is like making a home or building a community in difficult times, showing human resilience and hope. But nature, in its patient way, began to reclaim those lands. The sands moved, weather patterns shifted, and the once lush oases slowly faded. Think about a time when weather changed your plans. Maybe a sudden storm canceled a trip, or a long drought made life hard. These everyday examples remind us that life is always in flux, and sometimes, despite our best efforts, we must adapt or let go. This paradox, where human achievement meets nature's quiet power, touches deeper themes like belief and language. The Garamantes likely had stories and rituals to explain their connection with the desert and water, just as we tell stories to make sense of our own lives and environments. Sometimes those stories are fixed and strong, but other times they must change with new realities, teaching us flexibility. From a mental health perspective, the Garamantes' story reminds us to find calm when faced with change. Life often feels like shifting sands under our feet, uncertain and unstable. Yet, like the desert's slow changes, acceptance and patience help us navigate difficult times. It's okay to feel lost or uncertain, as these moments often lead to new paths and growth. Even in the modern world of AI and technology, this story resonates. Just as the Garamantes crafted systems to manage water carefully, today's AI helps us process vast information, guiding decisions in complex environments. Both remind us of the balance between human effort and natural or digital forces that shape our world. Imagine the silent desert, the soft winds moving grains of sand, and the hidden life, once supported by the Garamantes' hands. Their legacy lives quietly in the stories of survival and change, a reminder that even the hardest work can be fragile in the face of time and nature. If this story resonates with you, please like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe. For more journeys into the hidden histories and gentle mysteries of our world, your voice helps build this community of curious minds seeking peace and understanding. The Garamantes teach us about hope, effort, and the acceptance of change. Their green oases in the Sahara remain symbols of human courage and nature's quiet patience. As we reflect on their story, we find peace in knowing that life's rhythms include both building and letting go, growing and resting. Before we continue, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Join us as we uncover more stories, where mystery, history, and the quiet flow of life meet in surprising and beautiful ways. The Sabians of Sheba, the fading fragrance of ancient trade. Imagine walking through a bustling market filled with the rich smells of frankincense and myrrh, precious scents that once moved across deserts and seas, connecting distant lands and people. Now imagine those same roots drying up, the traders gone, and the temples that honored these fragrant treasures left to crumble into dust. This is the mysterious story of the Sabaeans of Sheba, ancient dealers whose fortunes rose and fell with the shifting winds and changing trade. Their story holds a quiet paradox. How something so vibrant and alive can slowly vanish, leaving only whispers behind. Have you ever noticed how things that once felt essential in your life gradually lose their place? Maybe a favorite place changes, a friendship fades, or a routine you depended on shifts unexpectedly. If you've experienced such change, you're not alone. Feel free to share where you are and your own stories of change in the comments below. These moments connect us, reminding us that life is always flowing between presence and absence. The Sabaeans thrived in what is now Yemen, controlling key trade routes for frankincense and myrrh, resins valued for their use in ceremonies, medicine, and perfumes. Picture a busy road or path that links places you know, like the streets between home and school or work. The Sabaeans' trade routes were like that, vital connections that brought goods and ideas from one place to another. They created wealth and culture in a land that was otherwise harsh and dry, much like how a small spark can brighten a dark room. But nature and history had different plans. The trade routes dried up, literally and figuratively. Changes in climate, political shifts, and new pathways took away the lifeblood of the Sabaeans' power. Imagine preparing for an important exam or event, only to find the plans you made no longer work because the situation changed. We all face such unpredictability, where things we counted on suddenly vanish, leaving us to rethink and adapt. This paradox, building something great that slowly fades, resonates in many areas of life. Our beliefs, traditions, and even the words we use can feel solid, yet they shift over time. Languages evolve, cultures transform, and what once seemed permanent can change beyond recognition. It's a gentle reminder that life is a flow, never fixed or final. From a mental health perspective, the Sabaeans' story encourages patience and acceptance. Loss and change often feel difficult or even painful, but these moments can also open space for new growth and understanding, like clearing away old leaves to make room for fresh shoots in a garden. The calm in knowing that change is part of life helps us face uncertainty with less fear. Even in the modern world of AI, this story has echoes. Just as the Sabaeans' trade routes connected people and goods, today's digital networks link us all. Yet, these systems can also change, break, or be replaced by new ones. Understanding the rise and fall of connections in history teaches us to navigate our own shifting digital landscapes with care and calm. Picture the dusty temples of Sheba, standing silently in the desert, reminders of a time when scents filled the air and life moved along ancient roads. Their quiet decay invites us to reflect on what lasts and what fades, and how every ending is part of a larger story. If this story touches you, please like the video, share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more gentle journeys into the mysteries of history and life. Your presence makes this community stronger and more connected. The Sabaeans of Sheba teach us about the beauty of connection, the inevitability of change, and the peace that comes with acceptance. As we breathe in the fading fragrances of their past, we find space to appreciate the present and prepare quietly for the future. Before we continue, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join us as we explore more stories where mystery, history, and the rhythms of life meet in calm and surprising ways. The Xiongnu Confederation. Horsemen lost in time. Imagine a vast land where the wind carries the sound of hooves pounding across endless grasslands, a world where nomadic riders move like shadows, free and fierce. Yet their story slowly fades, blending into the fog of history. This is the mysterious tale of the Xiongnu Confederation. Nomadic horsemen who once roamed the Eurasian steppe, powerful and wild, yet now barely visible in the clear pages of history. Their presence feels close, yet their details seem to slip through our fingers like grains of sand. This quiet paradox invites us to think about how something so strong and alive can vanish, almost without a trace. Have you ever felt like part of a group or a time, only to realize later that the memories or stories about that experience have become unclear or forgotten? Maybe a family story, a childhood game, or a local tradition that once felt important, but now is hard to remember or explain. If you have such moments, share your story in the comments. Where are you from, and what pieces of your past feel like fading shadows? Connecting through shared memories helps us all feel less alone. The Xiongnu were horsemen who lived across the vast Eurasian steppes, a landscape so wide it stretches from modern-day Mongolia to parts of Central Asia and beyond. Picture riding, a horse through open fields, feeling the wind and freedom, knowing the land is yours to explore but never to own. These nomads lived by moving, hunting, and trading, never settling in one place for long. It's like when we change schools or cities and have to adapt to new places while holding on to parts of our old home inside us. Their story is difficult to follow because the Xiongnu left few written records themselves. Instead, much of what we know comes from other civilizations like the Chinese, who wrote about them. But these accounts are sometimes unclear or biased, showing only one side of a complex story. Imagine trying to learn about a friend only through what others say about them, never hearing their own voice. This creates a paradox of presence and absence. A people known for their strength and influence, yet mysterious and partially hidden. In everyday life, we experience similar paradoxes. Think about a friendship where you remember moments but struggle to recall details, or a conversation where meaning gets lost between what was said and what was heard. We all face the limits of memory and perspective. This is part of what makes the Xiongnu's story so relatable, the tension between what is known and what is lost, between presence and absence. This story also touches bigger themes like belief and language. The Xiongnu influenced many later tribes and cultures, becoming part of a larger, shifting identity on the steppe. It's like how words change meaning over time, or how beliefs evolve as they move between people. Even our modern sense of self is shaped by stories we inherit and transform. The Xiongnu remind us that identity is fluid, not fixed. From a mental health point of view, their story encourages acceptance of uncertainty. Life often feels like a mix of clear memories and unknown paths. Holding space for what we do not fully understand can bring calm rather than frustration. We learn to appreciate the mystery as part of our journey, much like the nomads moving through open lands without a fixed destination. Even in today's world of artificial intelligence, the paradox of the Xiongnu continues. AI learns from vast amounts of data but often misses the full story, the deeper context, the human voice behind facts. Like the Xiongnu's vanished traces, AI's knowledge can be partial, reminding us to stay curious and humble about what we know. Imagine standing on a quiet steppe at sunset, feeling the vastness around you and sensing the lives once lived there, riding into the horizon. The Xiongnu's story, hidden yet powerful, invites us to listen closely to what is remembered and what is forgotten, to value the space between. If this story resonates with you, please like the video, share your experiences in the comments, and subscribe for more gentle explorations of history's mysteries and life's paradoxes. Together, we create a community that embraces curiosity, calm, and connection. The Xiongnu Confederation teaches us about freedom, mystery, and the beauty of stories that live on even when their voices grow quiet. As we breathe with the rhythm of the past, we find peace in the present and hope for the future. Before we continue, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join us as we quietly explore more stories where history, mystery, and the rhythms of life meet in calm and thoughtful ways. The Liangzhu culture. The city buried by water and time. Imagine a city that once shined with jade, art, and life, thriving near a great river full of people who shaped beautiful objects with their own hands. Now imagine that city slowly disappearing. Beneath murky waters, lost to floods and time. It feels strange to think about how something so alive and full of creativity can vanish beneath the surface, almost like a dream sinking into a deep sleep, waiting to be remembered again. This is the story of the Liangzhu culture, an ancient people who lived near the Yangtze River thousands of years ago, whose city now lies hidden beneath water and earth, silent but not forgotten. Have you ever had a place in your life that you loved but had to leave behind? maybe a childhood home, a park, or even a school. That feeling of loss, mixed with the hope that one day you might find traces of it again, connects us all. If you have memories of places that have changed or disappeared, share them below. Where do you come from, and what places from your past still live in your heart? It's through these shared stories that we build a community that feels close, even across time and distance. The Liangzhu culture existed around 5,000 years ago near the Yangtze River in what is now China. Their people were skilled artisans, especially famous for working with jade. Jade was not just a stone for them. It held deep meaning and was carved into beautiful and mysterious objects, often with spiritual or symbolic significance. Imagine the patience and care it took to shape something so hard and precious, using tools made from stone and bone. Their art shows us a world where beauty and meaning were deeply connected, but the city itself did not survive the test of time, above ground. Powerful floods caused by nature overwhelmed the area, and the city was swallowed by water and mud. It's like when a sudden storm washes away a sandcastle on the beach, leaving only traces in the sand. Yet, unlike a sandcastle, the Liangzhu city remained hidden, waiting quietly beneath layers of earth. Thousands of years later, archaeologists discovered the remains of this ancient place, revealing its secrets slowly and carefully. In everyday life, we experience similar moments. Think about how memories can fade or get buried beneath new experiences, only to resurface later when something reminds us. It's like finding an old photograph or hearing a song that brings back a flood of feelings. The paradox is clear. Some things disappear from view but remain alive beneath the surface, ready to reappear in new forms. This story also reflects deeper themes of belief and language. The Liangzhu people likely had spiritual ideas connected to their art and environment, ideas now lost to us but glimpsed through the objects they left behind. This reminds us how culture shapes not only what we see, but how we understand the world. Even today, language changes and meanings shift as we pass stories from one generation to the next, each adding its own touch. From a mental health perspective, the story of the Liangzhu culture teaches us about resilience and the cycles of loss and rediscovery. Life often feels like a river that changes course, carrying away some things and bringing others back. Accepting these cycles with calm and patience can bring comfort in uncertain times. Just like the city beneath the Yangtze, our own stories sometimes lie hidden, waiting for moments of clarity and understanding. In the modern world, this story holds lessons for technology and artificial intelligence as well. AI can collect and analyze vast amounts of information, but it may miss the subtle layers beneath the surface, the emotions, histories, and meanings that lie deep within culture. The Liangzhu culture reminds us that knowledge is not only what we see but also what we feel and imagine. Picture standing by the Yangtze River today, the water flowing endlessly, carrying memories from the distant past. Beneath its surface lies a city once full of life and beauty, a silent witness to time's passage. The mystery of the Liangzhu culture invites us to reflect on what we lose, what remains hidden, and what we might discover if we look carefully and patiently. If this story touches you, please like this video, share your thoughts and experiences in the comments, and subscribe for more calm and thoughtful journeys into the mysteries of history and life. Together, we create a gentle space for curiosity, connection, and quiet wonder. The Liangzhu culture's city beneath the water is a reminder that even when things seem lost, they may still live quietly, waiting to inspire us again. As we breathe, slowly and calmly, we join in a long chain of memories and stories that connect past, present, and future. Before we move on, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join us in exploring more stories where mystery and meaning flow together, in peaceful reflection. The Picts of Northern Britain. Painted warriors lost in mist and time. Imagine a group of people who once roamed misty islands and wild lands, their bodies painted with mysterious symbols and colors. They were fierce warriors, but also keepers, of secrets, stories carved into stones that still stand quietly in the landscape today. These stones whisper of a culture that vanished long ago, leaving behind only signs and shadows. It's strange how entire peoples can disappear from view, yet their marks linger, hinting at histories we can barely touch. This is the paradox of the Picts of northern Britain. Hidden in mist, remembered through stone. Have you ever felt like a part of your story is invisible to others? Maybe a memory, a feeling, or a tradition that only you or your close ones know? Share with us where you live, or a hidden story from your life. Connecting through small personal mysteries helps us all feel less alone in this vast world. The Picts lived centuries ago in what is now Scotland. Their name means painted people, and this comes from ancient writings describing how they decorated their skin with blue or red patterns before battle. These patterns might have been more than just war paint. They could have been symbols of identity, protection, or belief. Imagine the courage it took to wear those marks, knowing they held meaning only understood by those who knew the stories behind them. But the most lasting evidence of the Picts are the symbol stones they left behind. These stones are carved with strange shapes, animals, and abstract signs that puzzle historians and archaeologists even today. They are like messages from the past, frozen in time but full of mystery. Walking among these stones, one might feel a quiet connection to the people who made them, wondering what life was like beneath the mist and rain. In everyday life, we often encounter small mysteries like this. Think about handwriting that you barely recognize, or a photo with faces you can't name. These are puzzles of memory and identity, much like the Pict stones. We want to understand, but sometimes the answers are just out of reach. It teaches us patience and the value of questions over quick solutions. This paradox also touches belief in language. The symbols on Pict stones might represent stories or ideas lost with time, showing how much of our history depends on how we pass down knowledge. Without words or clear records, much is left to interpretation. In this way, the Picts remind us how fragile culture can be, and how much depends on memory and storytelling. From a mental health angle, the Picts' story encourages us to embrace the unknown in ourselves. Just as the Picts' true history is hidden beneath symbols and mist, parts of our minds can be unclear or confusing. It is okay not to know everything about ourselves right away. Like the slow uncovering of the stone's meanings, self-understanding takes time and gentle care. In the world of AI and technology, the Picts represent a challenge. How do machines understand something that humans themselves find mysterious? Can an algorithm unlock the secrets carved in stone? This reminds us that technology, no matter how advanced, may never fully capture the depth of human culture and feeling. Picture standing on a rocky shore, mist swirling around ancient stones, the wind carrying whispers of forgotten battles and stories. The Picts' legacy is a quiet invitation to reflect on what remains when people are gone and how the past shapes the present in subtle ways. If this story resonates, please like, comment with your own experiences or location, and subscribe for more calming journeys into the mysteries of history and human life. Together we explore the beauty of curiosity and quiet reflection. The Picts teach us that even when much is lost, the marks left behind can inspire wonder and connection. As we breathe deeply and slowly, we join a chain of memory and mystery stretching across time, reminding us that some secrets are meant to be pondered rather than solved. Before we continue, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's keep exploring these silent stories with calm minds and open hearts. The Cycladic Islanders. Marble figurines, lost in changing winds. Imagine a small group of people living on islands surrounded by endless blue water, crafting delicate marble figures that somehow captured their world. These tiny statues, smooth and simple, still speak quietly across thousands of years, telling stories of lives shaped by the shifting sea and unseen winds. But the people who made them vanished from history's stage, carried away by changing trade winds and tides of time. It's a strange thought, how entire cultures can disappear, leaving only small fragments behind. like whispers caught in the breeze. Have you ever experienced something that seemed small but meaningful, like a memory fading, or a tradition quietly slipping away? Maybe you've noticed a place in your town or a family habit that's slowly disappearing. Feel free to share where you are, or a small fading piece of your own life. These little connections remind us we are all part of a larger story, and they help us feel less alone in this vast world. The Cycladic Islanders lived in the Aegean Sea, scattered across tiny rocky islands bathed in sunlight and surrounded by water. Life here was shaped by nature, the sun, the wind, and the sea. Their most famous legacy is the marble figurines they made. These smooth, simple statues of human forms are unlike anything else from the ancient world. The figures have no faces, yet they express a calm, timeless presence. Some say they were used in rituals, others think they were symbols of protection or beauty. Whatever their purpose, they hold a quiet power. Imagine making something so small, so smooth, that it can survive thousands of years underwater or buried in sand. These figurines connect us to a way of life shaped by isolation and by the forces of nature. The Cycladic people must have known well the moods of the sea and the winds that carried their boats and goods. But as trade routes shifted and winds changed, the island's importance faded. Slowly, the Cycladic culture drifted away, much like their figurines scattered by waves or buried in earth. This story reminds us of everyday situations where small things carry great meaning. Think about a friendship that changes with time or a favorite place that no longer feels the same. Like the Cycladic figurines, small details can hold big emotions. Sometimes what we lose isn't loud or sudden, but gentle and slow, like a soft wind moving through leaves. The paradox here touches deeper themes like belief and language. The Cycladic figures show how humans use art to communicate without words. The silence of those faces invites us to imagine stories and meanings beyond what is said. It reminds us that communication is not only about spoken language, but also about feeling, presence, and shared understanding. It makes us wonder how much of our own lives is shaped by what we don't say aloud. In terms of mental health, this ancient story gently encourages us to honor what fades in our lives. Just as the Cycladic culture drifted away with the winds, parts of ourselves can shift quietly. Memories, dreams, and feelings may come and go like waves on the shore. Accepting this natural ebb and flow can bring peace, reminding us that loss does not always mean an end. Sometimes it's part of a larger cycle of change and renewal. Looking at this from the angle of AI and technology, the Cycladic figurines pose an interesting challenge. How can machines understand or recreate something so simple yet so full of mystery? Can an algorithm truly capture the feeling in a silent, faceless marble figure? This reminds us of the limits of technology and the unique depth of human creativity and culture. Picture yourself standing on a sunlit rocky shore, holding a small marble figure worn smooth by time. The sea breeze carries soft whispers from from people who lived closely with nature and expressed themselves through art and silence. Their legacy teaches us about the power of subtlety, the beauty of quiet presence, and the mystery held in small, lasting things. If this story spoke to you, please share your own experiences or where you're listening from in the comments, and subscribe for more gentle journeys into history's hidden whispers. Together we explore the delicate balance between presence and absence, and find peace in the quiet mysteries of time. The Cycladic Islanders remind us that even the smallest creations can hold deep meaning, and that cultures, like people, are shaped by forces both seen and unseen. As we breathe slowly and calmly, we join the dance of time, wind, and sea, part of a world where every whisper matters. Before we continue, remember to comment, and subscribe. Let's keep discovering these quiet wonders with calm hearts and curious minds. The Teotihuacan Civilization. Mysteries buried in the pyramid's shadow. Imagine walking through a vast ancient city, its wide avenues stretching out beneath towering pyramids, bustling with life long ago, but now silent and empty. The streets are empty, and the Great Pyramid of the Sun stands quiet under the hot Mexican sky. The people who built this city were once powerful and full of life, but their names and rulers have vanished in the smoke that rose when the city was suddenly abandoned. It feels strange and mysterious. How could such a great civilization disappear without a clear trace? It's a puzzle that touches something deep inside us, the fragile nature of memory and history. Have you ever lost something important in your life? Maybe a friendship, a habit, or a dream that once felt alive but now seems distant. Or perhaps you visited a place that once was lively but now feels empty. Share where you are or a small loss you've noticed. These moments help us connect, because we all experience change and fading memories in some way. Teotihuacan was once the heart of an ancient civilization in Mexico. The builders created the massive Pyramid of the Sun, a monument so large it still commands attention thousands of years later. The city was well planned, with wide streets, colorful murals, and a busy market life. It was a place full of culture, religion, and mystery. But despite the size and influence of Teotihuacan, no one knows exactly who built it. The names of the said rulers have been lost, and even the language they spoke remains unknown. Around 1500 years ago, the city was abandoned suddenly. Smoke and fire rose from its streets, marking an end to a once great story. This story reminds us of simple moments in life, like the unexpected ending of a chapter. Think about when you study hard for an exam, only to find the test is harder than you expected, or when a relationship suddenly changes without clear reasons. The paradox is that even the greatest things can disappear without warning, leaving only faint traces behind. It is both unsettling and fascinating. On a deeper level, the story of Teotihuacan touches on belief and memory. How do we remember the past? How do stories survive when there are no written records or clear voices to tell them? The silence of Teotihuacan challenges us to think about how fragile our own memories are and how much depends on stories being passed down. It shows that history is not only about facts but also about mystery and what remains unsaid. This ancient mystery also links to mental health. Sometimes we feel lost or forgotten, like parts of our story have disappeared. This can cause confusion or sadness, but it can also open a space for new meaning and discovery. Just like Teotihuacan, which remains a place of wonder and learning, our own past can hold lessons even when some details are missing. Accepting the unknown can be a gentle way to find peace amid life's uncertainties. From the perspective of AI and technology, Teotihuacan reminds us about the limits of knowledge. Machines can collect facts, images, and data, but some mysteries resist being fully understood. The story of a lost city without names or rulers shows that not everything can be captured or explained by technology alone. There is always a human element, feeling, imagination, and wonder that fills the gaps left by missing information. Picture yourself walking slowly through the ruins of Teotihuacan, feeling the heat of the sun, hearing the faint echoes of footsteps long gone, and wondering about the people who once lived there. Their voices are silent, but their city still speaks to us in stones and shadows. It invites us to pause, to listen carefully, and to feel connected across time. If this story touched something inside you, please like the video, share your thoughts or your location in the comments, and subscribe for more quiet explorations of history's mysteries. Together we learn to appreciate what remains, even when much has been lost. We find calm in the gaps and curiosity in the unknown. The Teotihuacan civilization teaches us that great stories do not always end with clear answers. Sometimes they invite us to wonder, to imagine, and to accept mystery as part of life's journey. As we breathe slowly and calmly, we become part of a long chain of curious minds, connected by the silent shadows of the past. Before we continue, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's keep exploring these gentle mysteries with open hearts and calm minds. The Zapotecs of Monte Alban. When silence speaks louder than words. Imagine a city perched high on a hill, its stone buildings and plazas bustling with people long ago, filled with stories told through symbols carved into walls. These symbols, called glyphs, once spoke volumes about the lives, beliefs, and power of the people who lived there. But now, those glyphs have fallen silent. The voices of the Zapotecs, who built Monte Alban in the Oaxaca region, seem to have vanished as power, shifted away from their hilltop cities. It's strange and mysterious, like a conversation suddenly stopping in the middle of a sentence, leaving us wondering what was left unsaid. Have you ever been in a situation where someone important suddenly stopped talking, or a place you loved became quiet? Maybe a friend moved away, or a family story was never finished. If so, share your experience or where you are watching from. These moments of silence can feel strange, but they also bring us together, reminding us that everyone faces change and loss. Monte Alban was once the heart of the Zapotec civilization. The city stood proudly on a hill overlooking the valleys below. It was filled with temples, tombs, and homes built from carefully cut stones. The Zapotecs left behind many glyphs, which were symbols used to record history, tell stories, and show the power of rulers. These glyphs were like the messages of the time, telling the story of a vibrant culture full of life and meaning. But as time passed, the city was abandoned, and the glyphs grew silent. Power moved elsewhere, and with it, the story of Monte Alban faded into mystery. This silence feels like a paradox we all know. Think about a conversation with someone you care about that suddenly stops, with no explanation. Or a letter never sent, a song unfinished, a thought left unspoken. These everyday moments show us how silence can be full of meaning, even when words are missing. Silence can be both peaceful and unsettling, a space for reflection or confusion. The story of Monte Alban also touches on bigger themes like belief and language. How do we understand the past when the messages left behind are no longer clear? The silent glyphs remind us that language is fragile. It can disappear, change, or become misunderstood. This challenges how we hold on to memories and histories. Sometimes what is not said or recorded is just as important as what is. The silence of Monte Alban invites us to listen with more than our ears, to feel the spaces between words and stories. On a personal level, this silence can reflect our own mental health. There are times when we may feel unable to express ourselves, or when our own stories feel lost. This can be difficult, but also a chance to find new ways to understand and heal. Just as Monte Alban's silence holds a quiet beauty, our quiet moments can offer space to grow and rest. From a modern view, this ancient silence challenges even the most advanced technology. Today, machines can analyze and interpret many forms of language, but some messages remain hidden or incomplete. Monte Alban reminds us that there are limits to what we can know, and that mystery is part of the human experience. It shows us that some things must be felt or imagined, not just decoded. Picture yourself standing on the hill where Monte Alban once thrived. Feel the wind, see the stones, and listen to the quiet around you. The silence here is not empty. It is full of stories waiting to be discovered and questions that invite wonder. It connects us to the people who lived and loved long ago and to our own search for meaning in the quiet moments. If this story moves you, please like the video, leave a comment about your thoughts or where you're watching from, and subscribe for more gentle journeys into history's mysteries. Together, we can explore the beauty in silence and the power of stories waiting to be heard. Monte Alban and the Zapotecs teach us that silence is not the end of a story. Sometimes it is the space where stories pause, inviting us to listen deeper and imagine more. As we breathe slowly and calmly, we become part of this ongoing story, connected by the quiet strength of history and memory. Before we continue, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's keep exploring these gentle mysteries with open hearts and calm minds. The Khmer pre-Angkorian city of Kokir, a city lost in the jungle's embrace. Imagine waking up one day to find your home silent, abandoned, and slowly hidden beneath thick green leaves and creeping vines. a city once proud and bustling, now swallowed by nature's quiet embrace. This is the story of Ko-Kir, a brief capital of the Khmer Empire crowned with temple towers, which mysteriously faded away as royal favor shifted to new places. It's a strange and haunting image, a powerful city, rich with life and meaning, disappearing without a clear explanation, leaving only ruins to whisper its forgotten story. Have you ever experienced something familiar suddenly change or disappear? Maybe a favorite park that once was lively is now overgrown, or a friend moved away, leaving an empty space where laughter once lived. If you have, share your story or where you're watching from. These moments remind us of life's delicate balance between presence and absence, growth and decay. They build a quiet community of shared experience, even across time and space. Ko-Kir was once a shining jewel in the Khmer world. For a short time, it was the capital, filled with magnificent temple towers that reached toward the sky. These temples were more than just buildings. They were symbols of power, belief, and creativity. The city was alive with the energy of kings, priests, and everyday people, all playing their part in a grand story. But then, just as suddenly, the city was left behind. Royal favor moved elsewhere, and the jungle began its slow reclaiming of Ko-Kir. What was once a center of life became a silent mystery, hidden under leaves and vines. This situation holds a paradox we all understand. Think about a friendship or a job that seemed important and full of promise, but then ended quietly without explanation. Or a sunny day that suddenly turns cloudy and storms roll in. These everyday moments show us how things can change unexpectedly, leaving us puzzled or nostalgic. Ko-Kir's story is like this, a reminder that nothing stays the same forever, and sometimes disappearance holds its own kind of presence. The story of Ko-Kir also connects with bigger ideas about belief, language, and history. The temples were filled with carvings and symbols, stories in stone about gods, kings, and the world. But when the city was abandoned, these stories became harder to understand. Language and meaning can fade when the context is lost. This challenges how we remember and honor the past. Ko-Kir's silence asks us to think about what happens when history is paused, erased, or hidden by time. On a deeper level, this silence reflects feelings many people know, when their own voices feel unheard or their stories forgotten. It can be lonely or confusing. But in these quiet spaces, there is also room for healing and new growth, just like the jungle that slowly covers Ko-Kir. Sometimes stepping back from noise and activity allows us to see life more clearly and find peace. Even today, with all our technology and knowledge, the mystery of Ko-Kir remains. Archaeologists and historians work hard to uncover its secrets, but some questions may never be answered. This shows us that mystery is a natural part of life and learning. Not everything can be known or controlled, and sometimes that is where beauty lives, in the unknown. Picture yourself walking quietly through the overgrown paths of Ko-Kir, feeling the weight of history around you. The moss-covered stones and the distant calls of birds create a calm, reflective atmosphere. This silence is not empty, but full of stories waiting to be felt rather than spoken. It connects us with a past that is both distant and strangely familiar. If this story touches you, please like the video, share your thoughts or where you are watching from in the comments, and subscribe to join us on more peaceful journeys through the mysteries of history. Together, we explore the quiet power of places like Ko-Kir and the gentle lessons they offer. Ko-Kir's story reminds us that silence and disappearance are part of life's rhythm. Sometimes stepping away creates space for new stories to grow, for new meanings to take root. As we breathe slowly and listen calmly, we become part of this continuing story, linked across time by the quiet strength of memory and mystery. Before we move on, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's keep exploring these peaceful mysteries with open hearts and calm minds. The Bactrian-Margiana Archaeological Complex. Cities lost beneath the desert's whisper. Imagine vast cities once full of life, thriving where oases offered water and shade in the middle of harsh deserts. These places were connected by the famous Silk roads, routes filled with travelers, merchants, and ideas flowing from east to west. Now, these cities lie buried beneath shifting sands and salt flats, hidden away as if the desert itself has swallowed their stories. It is a powerful and mysterious image, cities thriving, then disappearing, leaving behind only traces for us to find. This paradox of presence and absence feels both ancient and deeply human. Have you ever lost something important, maybe a memory or a place, and wondered how it could just fade away? Perhaps a childhood home changed so much that it feels like it vanished, or a friendship that was once strong slowly grew quiet and distant. If you have, share your story or tell me where you're watching from. These small shared moments help us connect, reminding us that loss and mystery are part of life for everyone. The Bactrian Margiana Archaeological Complex, or BMAC, was a cluster of oasis states in Central Asia. These cities were lifelines in a harsh world where water was precious and every drop mattered. People built walls, temples, homes, and markets here. They crafted art and tools, worshipped gods, and lived daily lives filled with hopes and struggles. These cities were part of a vast network of trade routes, the Silk Roads, where silk, spices, ideas, and stories traveled far and wide. Imagine walking those dusty roads, meeting strangers from distant lands, sharing news and goods, but then, slowly, these cities disappeared beneath the desert. Sandstorms and salt flats covered walls and streets. What caused this loss? Was it climate change, war, shifting trade routes, or something else? We may never know for sure. This unknown is part of the paradox. How something so alive can quietly vanish, leaving a silent mystery behind. This paradox mirrors everyday life. Think about how plans sometimes fall apart without clear reasons, or relationships end without explanations. We live with uncertainty, with endings that don't always make sense. Like BMAC's lost cities, these moments teach us to live with mystery and change, finding calm even when things feel unclear. The story of BMAC also invites us to consider larger themes. It reminds us how human life depends on connection, with nature, with others, and with culture. The Silk Roads were more than trade routes. They were bridges between worlds. When these cities were lost, it wasn't just buildings that disappeared, but entire ways of seeing and being. Language, belief, and culture are fragile. They need care and sharing to survive. When they vanish, it challenges how we remember and understand our past. At the same time, the desert's silent claim over these cities offers a peaceful kind of pause. Nature does not hurry or rush. It changes slowly, patiently covering what once was, while holding space for what might come next. This teaches us about acceptance and letting go. Sometimes stepping back and letting things rest is a gentle way to heal and prepare for new growth. In our own lives, we face similar cycles. Sometimes we need to step away from noise and activity, allowing ourselves quiet time to breathe and reflect. The hidden cities beneath the sand remind us of the power of stillness and silence. They encourage us to look deeply, beyond the surface, finding meaning even when things are not clear. Even with modern technology, the full story of BMAC is not yet uncovered. Archaeologists continue to explore and discover, piecing together clues from ruins and artifacts. This ongoing search reminds us that learning and mystery go hand in hand. Some answers come slowly, some remain out of reach, and sometimes the journey itself is where the true meaning lies. Picture standing on a hot desert plain, feeling the warm wind and the endless sky above. Beneath your feet, lost cities sleep, under layers of sand and salt, waiting for us to remember. The desert's quiet voice invites patience, curiosity, and respect for the unknown. It teaches us that even in loss, there is beauty and connection. If this story speaks to you, please like the video, share your thoughts or where you are watching from in the comments, and subscribe to join more calm journeys through history's quiet mysteries. Together we find peace in the unknown and strength in shared curiosity. The Bactrian-Margiana complex reminds us that silence and mystery are not emptiness, but space to grow, reflect, and connect. As we breathe slowly and calmly, we become part of a long, gentle story, one that stretches beyond time and place, linking us through the quiet power of memory and wonder. Before we move on, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's keep exploring these peaceful mysteries with open hearts and calm minds.